We didn't get any of that, but
Oh my god. Okay, yeah. What
so
I was saying was everyone's like, "Oh my god, Nick, why do you carry such a big thing of water?" And I'm like, "Because I can't do the two baby sip crap,
no,
little baby ass water bottles everybody else walks with."
eight
And then
ounces.
everyone thinks I look stupid because I have a big old gallon of water. But I'm like,
Exactly.
at least my thirst is quenched. Give a
Yeah.
rat's monkey ass what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'll walk around with a jug gladly. Yeah, no problem at all. Um,
Easily.
all right, guys, welcome to the show again. As always, do us a huge favor and support local businesses and support Rolling Meadows Talk for us. It's a new local news and offer website for the Northwest suburbs. You've heard me talk about it here before. Local deals, events, and business directory, and much more. It's the rollingmeadowstalk.com. So R as in rolling, M as in meadows, talk, TALK.com. We do our live shows over in Rolling Meadows at Reps Sports Bar, and we are actually going to be doing one hopefully in a couple of weeks, the day after New Year's Day, over at Reps Place. So we're excited for that. But again, guys, RM Talk is actually doing a pretty awesome, I guess you could say, gift for the holidays. So they're offering gift card rewards for RM Talk visitors through the holidays. All you really have to do is purchase a gift card at Reps Place using the offer from rmtalk.com. So you go to rmtalk.com. It'll tell you where exactly to go, claim the offer here. Once you get your offer code, you essentially just go purchase your gift card at Reps. If you purchase a $25 gift card, you get $5 free. If you purchase a $50 gift card, you get $10 free. And if you purchase a $100 gift card, you get $25 for free. All you have to do, go to rmtalk.com, claim the offer, save the coupon code, and then give that coupon code to the wonderful person at Reps Place. And basically, you will, like I said, get a free gift card just for purchasing one for the holiday season. Again, Reps Place is 3200 Kirchhoff Road in Rolling Meadows. And if you want to give them a call, it's 224-347-2916. But again, guys, it's rmtalk.com. That's where you go and claim the offer. And then you'd go into your local reps, the local Reps Place, and you would, like I said, purchase your gift card, give them your coupon code, and get a free gift card. In addition to that, no strings attached. So again, support small businesses, guys. Check out local offers and news at rmtalk.com. That's RM as in Rolling Meadows Talk, TALK.com. Man, it feels like sports is like kicked into overdrive with, like, now with basketball kind of heating up and regular season coming. And then we talked about it last week, but I think the NHL wasn't like finalized on their start of the season, but it seems like now they're finalized on the start of the season. So lots and lots of moving parts here.
Yeah, dude. The NHL did the other day. Then the NHL and the NHLPA did agree the other day to a 56 game season that looks like that the regular season will start on January 13th. Plus, yesterday was pretty much the last go rounds for, I think, most NBA preseason as the season starts next week. I know it's not smart to really try to engage as much in the preseason per se,
Right.
when it comes to the NBA, but I try to watch as much as I could,
Yeah.
On NBA TV. And man, dude, Kevin Durant looks like he picked up right where he left off. The Kings, I think, are a good young team that's coming up.
Yeah.
Steph Curry still got the juice. He was out there popping threes left and right. That team could be dangerous. I mean, obviously, them having no Clay hurts.
Yeah.
And I'm not selling Kelly Oubre as the next Klay Thompson, but they seem to kind of start to gel a little bit and make that work. I saw a little bit of the Bulls game yesterday. I thought Patrick Williams looked decent for a little bit of that game. So I'm still reserving judgment, but he could end up being a really good pick for the Bulls.
Yeah.
Emmanuel quickly yesterday for the Knicks got his first start at point guard, and that entire team looked great.
Yeah.
And we'll break all that stuff down later on. I want to clown Brian Kelly because he said some stupid shit about Notre Dame, so we'll get into that. Well, actually, we're going to go into football, so we'll get into that. And then what else did I want to bring up with you? Oh, I saw this today. Well, I saw Canelo's response today,
Oh, right, yeah.
but to Logan Paul,
Logan
I
Paul,
want to
huh?
bring that up because I thought he brought up a lot of great points. But
Yeah.
dude, it's going to be another fun-filled show. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, because you just tallied it, so give us what our tally looked like last week. How did we do last week on our picks?
All right, so on our picks last week, you went 8-7 straight up and 6-9 against the spread,
Yeesh.
and then I went 10-5 straight
Oh,
up.
wow.
I know, dude. Even I was shocked when I was
No,
counting
that's a
out these
nice
W's.
week, yeah.
And then um
You had a lot of
hold on a
the.
second.
I'm sure a lot of the
Something
spreads
doesn't
that
make
I
sense.
missed, I think you hit on. So I'm sure you did much better than I did in those points.
Hey, hold on. Let me recount this.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, no,
I'm
no, that's
looking at this
okay.
again.
I actually do want
And for
to I do want to say something about that preseason too, because you mentioned it and just kind of on the top of my mind. But like, if there was any year where you look too deep into the preseason, it's probably this year, right? Like, you're only 4 games in the preseason before you go and you start the regular season. So I'm the same way. Like right now, like, I'm trying to tame myself from saying like the Bulls are a playoff team, because like now that I look at the way that Billy Don, like, isn't it amazing when Egghead goes away, when that dumb, fat, ugly old man Jim Boylan is not screaming on the sidelines and not like looking like a complete douchebag on the sidelines. What an amazing difference it looks like when the players and their body language and their confidence and their just overall happiness level. I mean, I saw some really rough stretches for the Bulls over the first or over the 4 games that they've played in the preseason. Not once did I see Billy Donovan pulling on his tie, yelling, screaming. I mean, Mo Cheeks and Billy Donovan, what a perfect 1-2 combination for this young team to be able to rein them in a little bit. And again, I've got higher after that, I've got higher expectations, because when you look at what Jim Boylan did, he ruined a lot of the young talent that we have, and what Billy's going to come do is try and sort of recover from that. And he's, Zach LaVine is going to be Zach LaVine, but it's like going to be about Lauri Markkanen. Can he fix Wendell Carter? Is he able to kind of unlock some of the things that we've seen, out of Patrick Williams? So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think there's a lot of sort of nuggets to take out of the preseason, and again, now more than ever, it's important to kind of take a look at this, because only 4 games and we're back to the real thing here on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And your sentiments about the Bulls is kind of where my sentiments a little bit come with the Knicks, because I think the whole team is learning. Remember, Tom Thibodeau's biggest knock was how hard he ran his kids in practice.
Yeah.
Now he's coming in with a new mentality, a new game plan. He's doing things a little bit differently. He's still crying that the Knicks need to go out and get this superstar, stud, or whatever. But how smart right now is Leon Rose? Because remember, there was a lot of Knicks fans champing at the bit that they wanted Gordon Hayward. Well, Mr. Glass is hurt again.
Yeah.
He hurt his right finger, or his right pinky or index finger,
yeah.
and he's going to be missing time now. So we dodged the bullet by paying $30 million for a guy who can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
And again, new regime, new thoughts, and yes, Cleveland sucks and everything, but I'm not going to compare Jim Boylan to Mike Miller, because I think Mike Miller, did a decent job last year with the Knicks for what it's worth, and you saw the flaws in it. And he wasn't coming in saying, I want this to be this 9-to-5, establishment, and what it's like to punch a time clock like Jim Boylan did.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, now you have an experienced coach with a nice little experienced bench. I think Mike Woodson is on that bench too, which is huge.
Yeah.
And yesterday, what the Knicks did in this preseason was they hadn't done all last year, which is pretty much beat up on teams they were supposed to. Because there's a couple of times last year they lost to the Cavs, and the Cavs are one of the worst teams coming into the NBA. This season, they could end up being one of the worst teams in the NBA. And I like the fact that they went out there and put on an absolute sharp shooting show yesterday. Kevin Knox, a guy most Knicks fans were ready to give up on, 6 to 7 from 3 yesterday. Emmanuel Quickly, first start, 22 points. R.J. Barrett had 15, but they were 15 strong points. Mitchell Robinson had a fair game. But all in all, they played great defense against a team that they should be playing great defense against and blew the piss out of them. So, that's kind of why I'm a little bit more excited with this team this year, because we have an actual real head coach. Just like the Bulls right now have an actual real head coach, because Billy Donovan, say whatever you want about him, everyone thought that OKC was going to be left for dead when KD left, but Billy Donovan behind Russ, behind Chris Paul, you had one superstar point guard, whether it be Chris Paul or Westbrook, and then you had Steven Adams, which was the tough glue in the center, and then you just had a bunch of pieces.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You had SGA, you had Danilo for a little bit. You just had a bunch of little random pieces. But Oklahoma City was still either 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th in the West.
Yeah.
So Billy Donovan is a good head coach. Billy Donovan is the last relevant head coach down in Florida. So at the end of the day, this guy knows what he's doing. So I think your team and my team are kind of in the same boat, where there's a little bit of excitement because we have a real head coach coaching a bunch of kids. And I think Tom Thibodeau in specifics, I'm not saying that I don't disagree that we might need a star, but I think he might get a lot more talent out of these kids than he thinks.
Yeah.
And, I think the Knicks can flirt a little bit maybe with that 8th spot, but I think they're going to be much better than they have been in the past.
Yeah, and you have to remember Tibbs, like, I want to say for some reason, but we know the reason. He just doesn't like playing kids. Like, that's the real big issue with Tibbs is, like, Jimmy Butler was defensively ready when he came into the league. When they drafted him out of Marquette, he had, like, a raw offensive game, and even, like, handles-wise, they didn't think he could be a combo guard. But he was, like, ready to play defense from day one in the NBA. And Tibbs just refused to let it happen. And, similar to like what they did when they drafted Taj Gibson, same thing. He was defensively ready, but it took him having like breakout games against teams like the Heat and some other big teams at the time for Tibbs to really take him seriously. So I'm glad you mentioned Tibbs is sort of changing his mentality a little bit, because he has to, right? Like, it didn't work out in Chicago, or, say what you want about what happened in Chicago, but it didn't work out. And then, in Minnesota, I think he took in I think he had that same mentality of like, let's run him to the ground, really, and that's what started the whole Jimmy Butler and Cat and Andrew Wiggins thing, because Jimmy Butler's so used to the Tibbs, lacing into them and 5-hour practices and stuff like that. And I think Tibbs now has to sort of take a step back and realize, like, this is a different league now, too. Like, these kids are, Emmanuel Quickley's like, what, 20? I think he's like probably 19 or 20. To have a kid that young, even Mitchell Robinson, he's been in the league for 2 years now, and he's what, like 21, 22? So, you got to really, like, take a step back. And I think a good coach for that or a good assistant is Mike Woodson, who you mentioned, a nice sort of coach to sometimes bring Tibbs down a little bit and say, hey, let's do this instead of that. So I think both of us have some things to be excited about. So really happy about that. We'll dig deep a little bit into the NBA a little bit later, but I want to get into the NFL right away, because that's kind of the big thing here. We're at week 15. And by the way, did you tally up your?
Yeah. So I messed up. You actually went 9-6.
Oh, okay.
Not 8-7.
Okay. Straight
up. Because I was looking at our picks, and I'm like, dude, I can't have that much better of a record than you did, because we pretty much picked the same.
A lot of the same.
The only one that we really differed that put me in double digits was I picked Dallas over Cincinnati.
Oh, right. I took Cincy. Yeah. And also remember, I took the Bears, but we both did this. And I don't know if you did this. I think you just kind of jumped. I took Houston, but I knew the Bears were going to win that damn game. Like, I was positive that the Bears were going to fuck up and do something stupid and win that game, and look at what they did.
Yeah, dude. And the only thing that pissed me off about that game is usually when Houston scores 2 touchdowns, Jack in the Box down here, we'll give you a free jump jack.
Oh, really?
Buy like a large drink. And obviously they didn't score 2 touchdowns. But, dude, Bill O'Brien really left his team in like an absolute hole. And, you know, I don't want to say – I'm not saying Deshaun Watson sucks in any way. Sometimes I'm leery about putting that O word around him sometimes.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's funny because Packer fans were like, hey, we need to go out and get Will Fuller. We need to go out and get Will Fuller. Dude, like, at the end of the day, Will Fuller is not the issue for Green Bay. And you can see what job he's doing down here in Houston. Like, Romeo Crennel's doing the best to his ability right now.
Yeah.
But, boy, Houston is bad.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to figure out when it's time to kind of just – you're going to have to keep Deshaun because you got him
right.
You got him locked up for the next 4 or 5 years. And unless you have a deal that you can't refuse, you're not going to trade him. But, dude, at this point, J.J. Watt is dead fish. David Johnson's dead fish. The Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller, and I forget who. Oh, and Randall Cobb. That's not going to work out. You need to somehow in the draft replace DeAndre Hopkins somehow. I mean, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But you're going to need another playmaker. I mean, this team is trash. And the Bears came out and did exactly what they were supposed to do, and that's beat a team that they're better than.
Right.
The Bears are a better team than Houston. But I think in your eyes and in my eyes, I'm thinking, damn, dude, the Bears have been such letdowns over the last month and a half.
Yeah.
Like, what makes me think that the Bears at home against a Houston team that has really nothing to win or lose, that they don't come out and smack them, and the Bears kind of put Houston in a reality check? But, you know, the NFC as a whole, I was looking at the playoff picture. You know, the playoff races, I think the playoffs, I think the Bucs winning that game against Minnesota this past week really put the NFC in its perspective, because Minnesota's now on the outside looking in at 6-7. I forget who has that 7th spot, but then you have the Bucs sitting there at 8-5. Yeah. Then you have Seattle that's 9-4. Then you have the Rams that are 9-4, so they're battling for the West.
I think Arizona's 8-6 or 8-5.
I think it's Arizona. So Arizona's sitting there at either 7-6 or 8-5 in that 8th spot, and then the next best team there is Minnesota, the Bears, the Lions are in that mix somewhere, but they all have losing records. So I think the Bucs winning that game kind of solidified who is going to be in per se. Now it's going to be, you know, who gets what position per se, because believe it or not, dude, with the Saints losing to the Eagles, the Bucs are still in contention for the South, believe it or not.
Yep.
And then, you know, the Rams can still get that 1 seed. Green Bay is now in the 1 seed. New Orleans can get the 1 seed. And if by some miracle of Jesus, believe it or not, Seattle can still go up and get that 1 seed. Yeah. And shockingly enough, Tampa Bay can actually go up and get the 1 seed. So it's now all in the juggle. You have that 4 spot with the NFC East, which, you know, you've been saying it for like the last 3 weeks now, that you felt the Washington football team were the better team. This game coming up Sunday is going to be ugly because the Giants are hurt. Washington's hurt. Yeah. We're going to see no Alex Smith. Daniel Jones is questionable. So the NFC East, for as bad as it has been, these last few weeks have been interesting because Washington's defense has really stepped up to the plate. The Giants' defense has been stepping up to the plate. Philly still somehow is in the mix. Even Dallas, for as bad as they've been, they're still in the mix. Believe it or not, they're not eliminated. So, I mean, it's gonna be an interesting last 3 weeks. But the NFC's been amazing. And then, you know, last Monday we saw the Ravens-Browns Monday night game. That was a shootout. Yeah.
One of the better games of the year. One of the better games of the year, man.
Yeah. You know, even though the Ravens won. Again, we mentioned this last week on how Kevin Stefanski has got the Browns in contention, playing well. They're not the same old Browns anymore. Right. You know, they're still fighting with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's falling off the map since they lost. They've now lost back-to-back games. And now Pittsburgh in 2 weeks went from a lock for the 1 seed to now looking at potentially the 2, 3, or 4 seed, because now that Kansas City only has one loss, what are they, 11-1, 12-1?
Yeah, so it's Kansas City's at 12-1 right now. Buffalo's 10-3, and then Pittsburgh 11-2. So Pittsburgh with 2 losses to close the season. Or like I said, I'm sorry, two out of 3 losses to close the season. That puts both Buffalo, Indianapolis, Tennessee, and Kansas City all in the same boat with them. So the AFC is much, much more competitive at the top, and we haven't even mentioned Cleveland, who's 9-4, still have an opportunity to do that as well.
Yep, and this goes to the conversation that you and I had maybe about a few weeks ago, where the NFL might be in a position where they're going to have to do what the NBA did, and that's do seedings based on records.
Right.
Remember in the NBA, if you won your division, you got a top 4 seed.
Right.
And then 5 through 8 were at large bids. And Adam Silver came in and said, nah, what we're going to do now is if you win your division, yeah, you'll be in the playoffs, but you're not guaranteed the 4 spot.
Right.
If a team at 5 has a better record than you, they'll get the home court advantage. And I think the NFL is in a point right now where they need to do that, because there's no diss to the NFC East. It's just crazy that a team under 500 is going to be able to host a playoff game against a team that had a much better record than they did. So I think that's something that the NFL needs to look into next year. But again, the way that the NFL season's coming down, last 3 games, a lot on the line, dude. It's very interesting. But I think that AFC is interesting too, because and you just mentioned it. The Steelers are 11-2. The Bills are 10-3, and the Bills still have the tiebreaker over Pittsburgh for beating them. So Pittsburgh could have went from the 1 spot to clearly, again, 3 or 4, depending on how they finish the season. Yeah. So that's kind of crazy too. But dude, this is exactly what the NFL needed in this pandemic, to have, this kind of parity and whatnot, and everything up in the air, for the season, because we went from this season almost to damn near maybe not even being played to 3 weeks, and we have so many playoff scenarios where this team can still get one, that team still get one, this team can still win the division, that team can still win the division, this team can still make the playoffs. So it's crazy, but it's been good.
Yeah, and these next couple of weekends are going to be nuts because, we're in the middle, or I guess not in the middle, but at the beginning of week 15 here, and there's 10 to 15 different scenarios that are still on the table for both divisions. So really, really interesting stuff. And this is the part of the NFL schedule where Saturday games start to play in. So we got 2 games today. We'll talk about those. But Thursday night was another pretty darn good game. I mean, to be quite honest, it was there were some lulls throughout it, but definitely a pretty exciting game towards the end between the Chargers and the Las Vegas Raiders. As the Raiders, man, it doesn't get much worse for the Raiders than the last couple of weeks, because they started off on such a good note. I think everybody was ready, including me, and maybe you were ready to give them sort of the pass to say, man, they're one of the better teams in the AFC with the running game that they have, and the defense is stepping up. But man, they've been terrible over the last couple of weeks, especially defensively. And then they lose David Carr on the first drive of the game on that Thursday night game. And then, I mean, what surprised me the most was Marcus Mariota came in and was like, I'm good. I could do this. And he was right there. I mean, he obviously missed a couple of passes, looked like a guy who hasn't played in a while, but his feet are still there. He still has a little bit of a touch. He's still got what, I mean, honestly, Zay Jones dropping the pass was a really huge one for them and a big momentum shift. Nelson Aguilar didn't do them many favors. Really, the only, great receiver they have is their tight end, Darren Waller. And he single-handedly almost brought them that game. But at the end of the day, it was a last second. I mean, it wasn't even last second. It was like a last minute touchdown run by Justin Herbert in overtime that basically, sealed it as it went to overtime on a pretty nice drive by the Raiders. But then the Raiders they get the ball first in overtime. They kick a field goal, and then Justin Herbert and the Chargers get a couple of clutch plays down the stretch, and he stretches it in for a big win for them. They're 5-9, and maybe they've saved Anthony. What do you think? Did they save his job? I have the same reaction because I'm thinking here. I mean, they've played some pretty good ball over the last couple of weeks, but when you look at it, man, those are some glaring mistakes he's made in the last couple of weeks.
It has been, I think what has killed the Chargers is their inability to close games out.
Yeah.
So you have to take the good with the bad. So The bad obviously is the 5-9 record, right? But they could have beaten Tampa. They could have beaten New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
They could have beaten who did they play that they damn near lost to? There's a couple other ones out there, but those two games in particular stand out. So it's like Anthony Lynn is the Chargers are maybe 10 plays away from being 9-5, if that makes sense. If not better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for them to keep fighting and keep playing and actually coming into Las Vegas and putting a hurt on the playoff chances for Vegas could save his job.
Yeah.
If it does, he's going to be on the shortest leash in the
NFL. Oh yeah.
Like I don't know if you've ever played which Madden was it? I want to say it was like Madden, like 96, 97. It was before the 2000s.
Uh-huh.
But they used to have like coach mode.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. They had Bill Cowher. It had Bill Cowher on the cover, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
And sometimes you could be so bad that they give you like the leash, but the minute you lose one game, like if you simulate and you lose one game, bang, you're fired.
Fired, yeah. Right,
and that's where I think Anthony Lynn is at. If he keeps his job and they start off 0-3, he's out. There's no question about it. So that's what I think. I don't know, because they did I read or listened to a top 10. It was a top 10 most attractive jobs, and the Chargers job, if it opens up, was ranked number 1 job.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what happens with that. But I think Justin Herbert is a guy that I really wanted in Tampa, because I thought that if you take him out of that goofy-loofy system in Oregon and actually make him into a quarterback, he has the arm, he has the legs, he can break the pocket, all of that. I thought he may have actually, in my opinion, been the more complete quarterback this year than some of the other ones that have come out. Yeah. And you're starting to see why, because he has an arm, and they got guys that can get open and go down the field, and he can hit them. Yeah. So the Chargers are going to be in good hands personnel-wise. Can either this coaching staff or another one put it all together for LA.
Yeah, and they have good defensive pieces too. Like they have, Bosa and Ingram, and I know, the main issue with them is like Derwin James keeps getting hurt and keeps missing, games and seasons and stuff like that. So if they can turn that around, that would be amazing. But yeah, Chargers, pretty impressive to get to 5-9, and even more impressive to, not necessarily eliminate, because Vegas still has a pretty solid chance. But man, it's going to be tough in that AFC with the amount of especially like in the AFC North alone, when you're thinking about Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Baltimore, and the way Baltimore played this week, it's very hard to say that Vegas is a shoo-in by any stretch of the imagination.
Exactly.
I want to get into the games that are happening later on today, and one of them is going to be happening around another 15 minutes here. It's the Denver Broncos, who are 5-8 after a what we touched on earlier, really closely, was a pretty nice win for them against Carolina. I mean, Carolina, you're not gonna be going and celebrating like you won the Super Bowl by beating Carolina, but at the same time, that's a big win for Vic Fangio and his guys, because they're 5-8 now, and they're hosting another really impressive team from last week, Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo's had their ups and downs, and then when you see them matched up against Pittsburgh, you're thinking, oh, Pittsburgh's going to be able to expose them, but it was the complete opposite. It was actually Buffalo who did the exposing of Pittsburgh, and specifically Pittsburgh's defense, who they can get sacks, they can get turnovers, but man, do they give up yardage at big points too. And cornerbacks aren't their strongest suit. It's like more so front seven for them. So when you're able to sling the ball around the way that Josh Allen was last week, it's very tough to stop. And Buffalo here has a pretty nice matchup. They are 6-point favorites on the road, going against Denver, and both teams are a little bit shorthanded right now, to be quite honest, both on short weeks with the Saturday game, but I don't imagine anything too crazy to affect the game. But I obviously like Buffalo in this game. I think Buffalo, I think they've got the perfect sort of end stretch for their season. So, they'll have this game against the Broncos. They got the Patriots next week while the Patriots are kind of going on their way down, and then the Dolphins to end the season. So, two tough matchups to end the season would be a really nice tune-up for the Bills. And again, I suspect that they'll be able to run the ball a little bit better against Denver today. I think that was the main issue with Pittsburgh, is couldn't really get too much going on the ground, and when they did, I think Zach Moss had a fumble, if I'm not mistaken. So I like Buffalo in this one, though. I think they take it pretty handily, both on the points and the pick.
Yeah, I like Buffalo too, and I'm with you. I thought Denver put up a really good effort against Carolina last week, being on the road. That's a game that easily Carolina could have won because, they're at this point, I think they're playing for pride. Matt Rule is still putting his stamp on the team. And, it's a West Coast team, quote unquote, to be coming to the East Coast. So, that time difference does make a difference. But I thought they played really well against Carolina. And I agree with you with Buffalo. I think the problem with Pittsburgh, and I know we're going to get into them in a little bit. My headphones going out. There we go. Excuse me. Is remember, they lost Bud Dupree and they don't have Devin Bush either. And those were two huge losses for, as you mentioned, the front seven being strong enough to kind of cover up the holes in the secondary. And those two guys not being there and exposing the secondary is exposing Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Plus, Pittsburgh's running game is not what it used to be.
No.
And I know James Conner had the one good year, and I know the feel-good story that's around James Conner.
Yeah.
But this is one of those times where Le'Veon Bell right now looks really good in a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey because they were too cheap to pay him. So, but as far as this game is concerned, I like Buffalo. I think Josh Allen really had himself a hell of a game last week. I think he's going to have himself another hell of a game this week. And, this is a huge win for Buffalo because, as you mentioned, you have now their last two games against AFC East opponents, and one of them is fighting for a playoff spot in Miami. So I think they need this game. I think they win this game. And you said the Bills are -6. Yeah, I think the Bills are -6.
Yeah, -6. And I don't know. I know that both Carolina and Denver are playing today, so that they did a pretty decent job schedule-wise, but how do you feel about Saturday games? I
don't like them.
I'm not a fan either. I just first of all, I think the reason why they do it is because they have playoff Saturday games. Then don't have playoff Saturday games. That's right. My mentality. I don't think you should be playing for Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays for 15 weeks, and then all of a sudden go, now we're playing on Saturday.
Exactly. And you know how that go, because how many playoff games usually on Saturday? Just 2, right?
It's 2, right? Yeah.
It's just 2?
Yeah.
The NFL is so damn greedy when it comes to the playoffs that there's no way in hell that they're just going to be like, okay, we'll just overlap and we'll have 2 afternoon games and 2 late games, and then we'll just move on. No, they want the world to watch each game individually with its own breakdown. So the playoff Saturday thing I'm used to, but this whole I still don't like the Thursday night games outside of Thanksgiving, and I don't like Saturday games.
Yeah.
Sundays, Footballs is Sundays, Mondays, and playoff Saturdays.
Yeah.
That's the only days that they should be played, unless it's Thanksgiving.
Right, and even like Thanksgiving, fine. I'll do 2 tune-up Thursday games, but to have a Thursday night game every week, a Sunday night game every week, a Sunday day game and a Sunday afternoon game, and then you got the Thursday, and then you got the, it's just too much. And I think we're only like 5 years away from it being like every day is football day. We're gonna have a game every day because they're just so greedy. They're like, we can make money on this, so I guess we'll just make it every day. And I'm telling you, we're not too far from that. Because, the way that the NFL makes their money on the TV, you're right. They want all eyes on CBS during that game. And then, oh, by the way, I need all eyes on Fox on that game. And then all eyes on ESPN on that. So it's just, to me, the NFL is going to keep sort of experimenting for TV purposes so that they can make money. But I think they're losing some interest in the fans, as a result of that.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the other game today. It's later on tonight. It's a 7:15 Central start time, and it's the Green Bay Cheeseheads, who are 8-point favorites at home against the aforementioned Carolina Panthers. And Carolina, we talked about, lost that game last week against Denver. 2 straight pretty tough losses, including the one against Minnesota the week before. And then Green Bay, they came off what turned out to be a pretty close game, but I think they were in control for most of the game, but that game against Detroit last week for Green Bay was, I think, a little bit closer than they would hope, in Green Bay. But still, you come out with a win. And speaking of the running game not looking that great, I mean, the running game hasn't looked that great for the Packers lately. It's been like all Aaron Rodgers and just really trying to just get as many points out of a drive as possible and giving it back to their defense, who we mentioned is not like exactly, a world-beating defense. I mean, they gave up 24 to the Lions last week, and the Lions really, are doing everything they can to probably lose games at this point. So yeah, and an 8-point favorite at home is Green Bay, who is 10-3. Honestly, I really, I obviously think that the Green Bay's a better team, but I'm interested to see how that point spread works. I think 8 points is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be one of those where a touchdown's not going to get it done for you. So I would actually say Green Bay would be taking this on the pick'em, but I would take Carolina plus the 8.
I'm on the fence. On the points.
On the points, yeah. That's a tough one, man. Because
I agree with you. I agree with you that Green Bay's going to win the game. I'm gonna go Green Bay minus the 8 now, but we'll see if I change my mind by the time the show goes.
Okay.
Because I'm on the fence, because it's like, okay, what I'm banking on is that Carolina plays tough teams tough.
Right.
They played New Orleans tough. They played us tough. There's a couple other games that they played against teams over 500 tough.
Yeah, even the Bears beat them, but they played tough against the Bears too.
Played them tough, yeah. Right? Green Bay, because as you mentioned, for some reason, has gone away from the run game and it's not been as effective. I don't know if they can get to Aaron, and I don't think they have the secondary to guard like Devontae and Marcus Valdez-Scantling and the crew. But, man, Carolina said I'm going to go with minus the 8 now, but we'll see if I change my mind by the time the show.
Okay, we'll give you that.
So
we'll go
with minus 8, but we're going to put a huge question mark.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because, I mean, in Lambeau, I'm sure the weather's not going to be too great as far as, like, temperature-wise. I think all the signs are pointing to the Packers maybe disappointing a little bit. So we shall see. And obviously, I'm hoping for a loss for the Packers, but we'll see about that one. Let's get into Sunday games because both of our teams are playing on the 12 o'clock window, and there's not going to be much of a 3 o'clock window. 3 games in the 3 o'clock window on Sunday, and then the Sunday night game, and then one Monday night game, which feels like it's the first time in a long time we've only had one Monday or Tuesday night game. But let's talk about the Bears and Vikings first, because we talked about the Bears, it was so obvious that the Bears were going to win that game last week. Like, it was just like, it's again, when people have asked me questions about, like, well, let's just like tear the team apart and trade everyone and lose the next couple games and get the better pick. That's not going to be the reality of this situation right now. The team is 6-7 right now, and they have two pretty winnable games here ahead of them, which, in my mind, if you look at it, the Vikings should be an easy win for them, considering what they did last week and what the Vikings did last week. I think this should be a pretty easy game for the Bears, but I don't think it's going to be quote-unquote easy. But the next week, you get the Jaguars, who we mentioned is going to be, a pretty tough game for the Jaguars to be able to beat the Bears defense. And then you got the Packers in the last game of the season, which, I don't think anyone's expecting the Bears to come out and upset the Packers, but still, you still got two easy games here. The worst you can do is be like 8-7 by the time you get into, or let's say even 7-8, but before you get into, the last week against the Packers. But yeah, this Vikings game is really interesting because the Vikings are actually 3-point favorites at home. Obviously Vikings coming off of a tough loss against your team, where, the Tampa Bay defense looked really, really nice, especially, in pressure situations, the red zone situations and getting the turnovers that they did. And then, obviously we saw the Bears sort of womp on Houston 36-7. I'll let you talk about this one because you saw the Vikings last week, so I'll let you go first. What are you thinking about this one?
I did, and I think give credit where credit is due because, I was trying to tell some of my big head Buccaneer brothers and sisters to calm down because, everyone's like, oh my God, I'm so worried about Adam Thielen and I'm so worried about Justin Jefferson and our secondary is so this, that. Dude, they're coming off the bye week. They're coming in fresh.
Yeah. Justin
Jefferson had a shell of a game. Adam Thielen, I think, barely got a catch in that game. He may have had a couple. I can't think of the kid who was giving him fits. He was playing this, or I think it was Irv Smith Jr.
Irv Smith, yeah.
Kind of had himself a game, but where Minnesota's undoing was when the Bucks clamped finally down on Dalvin Cook because he killed him in that first quarter, and it was pretty much a wrap after that. Like, Sue wasn't having none of that. Golson wasn't having none of it. Devin White was able to get to him a few times. So, I actually am going to bring this up.
Yeah.
And I obviously I tagged you on Facebook about it. But it had to do with the Mack for Goff trade. Right. Now I read your response and everyone's like, "Oh, this trade is garbage. This trade is terrible. This trade is this."
Yeah, and I don't want to cut you off, but I don't think that trade's garbage. I just don't think it's exactly beneficial for the Bears, but to say that's garbage is stupid because that's it's legitimate.
Everyone at that point is just looking at name.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Everyone's like, "Oh my God, is Khalil Mack one of the best linebackers in the game? He's a sack man. Why would you trade sack man for Jared Goff?" I mean, Jared Goff is all but 2 years removed from being in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and having a legitimate chance of actually beating New England in that Super Bowl.
Sure.
So before we just try and poo-poo, it's Jared Goff. That was the question I was going to write into. When is it time for the Bears to really move on?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, okay, I understand the game, right? We just traded damn near 4 draft picks, all in the first and second rounds, basically for Khalil Mack. But I guess my question is, the Bears clearly need a quarterback, and how do I want to put this in words? Because I guess what I'm tweaking out at is, how much longer do you think Khalil Mack before you realize you can get some value out of this guy for it to happen? Because I guess the question I'm asking is, have the Bears defensively hit their peak already?
Yeah.
When they first got Khalil Mack, you get what I'm saying? When they first got Khalil Mack, they were 12-4. And a lot of people think that if they would have beaten Philadelphia in that wild card game, there's a great chance the Bears could have gone to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You couldn't ask a Bear fans anything. They thought they were destined for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The next year, you go, what was it, like 8-9 or 9-7, where you
7-9,
missed the
yeah.
playoffs, but the defense is still playing pretty decent. And then it just seemed like when Vic Fangio left, like if there's the regress button, right? I'm not saying Khalil Mack hasn't been great for the Bears, but if you feel like you have a chance to bring in that guy that could probably turn this team around, it would almost be like the Bears bringing in Jay Cutler then. That's how I feel Jared Goff is. Because Jay Cutler is, to many people, thinking that he might have been the best Bears quarterback the Bears have had over the last maybe 10 or 12 years
Maybe
or
in
so.
their history. Maybe in the Bears' history, yeah.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? So if you're able to get a Jared Goff and Khalil Mack is the price, are Bears fans afraid, or the Bears organization afraid, that they'll look stupid, that they just mortgage their future for one of the best pass rushers in the league, and now you're willing to give him up to bring in a quarterback that you need? Or is it the fact that you're so used to Khalil Mack that Bears fans just can't fathom the fact that Khalil Mack would be – because Khalil Mack on the Rams might as well just go ahead and steamroll through the entire NFL. Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, and Khalil Mack with an improved Leonard Floyd on that defense, why play the season at this point? If you scored 13 points on the Rams, that means they had a whole off day.
Yeah.
That's how great that defense would be.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I brought it up, because I kept thinking, I'm like, man, there's really no one saying, yes, we want to make this deal. But what's the real reason?
Well, honestly, I first of all, I just don't think it's a realistic trade for either team. So, like, first of all, the Rams, you can't have three guys on the defense making quarterback money. That's what you would have. You would have, Ramsey making quarterback money, Donald making quarterback money, and then Mack making quarterback money, and then no quarterback. You know what I'm saying? So that would be sort of the issue on the Rams side. But, from the Bears side, I think you're bringing up some valid points. I think, you're not, like, so far off with your basis for this, because the window for the Bears defense is closing, and that's something that I've mentioned that phrase a lot on the show, which is that, like, you're ruining the winning window for this defense by having an incompetent coach, an incompetent play caller on the defensive side of the ball, and just not good offensive play. So, Khalil Mack is still statistically one of the top 4 defenders in the league, but I think what you're saying is that, in the grand scheme of things, is Khalil Mack on your team going to be putting you further than, let's say, trading him for Jared Goff in a fantasy lane, even in an alternate universe? If we're taking these two teams and we're swapping Khalil Mack with Jared Goff, I think the Bears defense probably takes a huge step down, but then the offense takes a pretty big step up. And I think it's that's a really interesting question, because if you gave me another name, like if you gave me a sexier name, I may be on top of that and saying let's think about that really deeply. But the problem with me is that I think Jared Goff has been really up and down the last couple of years, and we've seen him at his best and we've seen him at his worst, and honestly I'm willing to bet that a lot of his success has to do with his coaching, and a lot of his downfalls has to do with himself, because, like, we saw it in the Miami game where he just constantly turning over the ball, and, like, basically he turned over the ball 3 times and Miami won the game alone on defensive prowess in that game. So I think people who are like, that makes no sense, why would he? No, I think that's stupid. I think there's certainly, like, again, let me give you another one. If you told me Deshaun Watson for Khalil Mack, I still would say the value is a little bit low on that side, meaning that, a straight-up swap would probably not make sense. I think you would have to maybe, throw in some picks and stuff like that. But, man, if you're a Bears fan and you're thinking, shit, well, we have a first-round pick here, but we're going to have a first-round pick that's not going to be good enough to get you a quarterback, right? And we all know right now that you're not, like, if you're looking for quarterbacks in the current pool, you're not going to find very much. You're going to find Jameis Winston possibly next year. You're going to find Taysom Hill possibly next year. You're going to find a couple of these guys who have, like, been around the league. But if you're telling me that I get to resolve that situation, I get Deshaun Watson, and I basically have to replace Khalil Mack, I might be thinking about that one. I really might be thinking about that one. I'm thinking, you know what? Khalil, is a great player. Maybe we can draft somebody in the first round, maybe pick up another free agent, and those two can kind of, those two people can give you what Khalil Mack gave you alone. It's a tough one, but again, I just think value-wise, you have to look at this smart in the way that the Bears have the Bears planned their future around Khalil Mack, and you're right about that. The reason why they made the trade for Khalil Mack was because they were confident that they were going to get 3 more years of Trubisky on his rookie deal, and then hopefully he would progress enough where you would give him a 5th-year option and have him for a 5th year. That's not looking like it's going to happen. He's probably going to be gone after this year, and I do want to talk a little bit because I don't want to get too far off the subject, but I want to talk about when Matt Nagy benched him earlier this year and what that did to this team and why he did that exactly. I don't think anybody really understands the reason. But to get back to the point about the Mac thing, I think you're on point with it because, again, this is a team. It's not like we're in good cap situation next year. We're not. We are paying Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Kyle Fuller, Eddie Jackson. Those are 4 guys on your defense that are making, I would say, around 70% of your total salary for the defense. So that's a huge problem. And then on top of that, you gave money to Charles Leno. He's making a lot of money next year. You gave money to Bobby Massey. He's going to be making some money next year. You have to extend Allen Robinson. So if you really want Allen Robinson around any longer, you're going to have to pay him as well. There's a lot of really big holes on this team. I would like to see it be more so let's think about what this team looks like without Akeem Hicks, or maybe what this team looks like without Eddie Jackson, or without Kyle Fuller. And is it any better off than without Khalil Mack? I think you're in a similar situation there. When you lose Eddie Jackson, who's one of the best ball hawking safeties in the league, that's a tough pill to swallow. Same thing with Khalil Mack. Same thing with Akeem Hicks. We saw how important Hicks is to this defense this year and last year when he was gone. So, yeah, again, I don't think that trade is too far off. I just think value-wise, if, let's say, for example, the Rams were we'll throw you a second-round pick this year, and another 5th-round pick next year, and the Bears don't give up anything other than Khalil Mack, sure, go ahead. Ruin your team, Rams. We'll take that in a second. But otherwise, I just don't think it makes a ton of sense for either team. But I'm open. If you're asking me if I'm open, if this is a big way for you to ask Bears fans and me as a whole, are you open to moving on from Khalil Mack? I think the answer is everything's on the table at this point.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's really me beating around the bush.
But I see where you're going, because it's can you really afford to pay $25 to $30 million a year for a defensive player when your offense is so incompetent and you're missing such a huge part of your offense? It's you have to start to really ask yourself tough questions. I'm telling you, this is gonna be a tough offseason for Bears fans, man. This is not gonna be one where you're gonna be closing your eyes throughout most of this offseason, because we don't know what's gonna happen, and it's gonna be crazy. And it brings me into the whole Mitch thing, because it's they decided not to pick up the 5th year with Mitch, but let's say a hair grows up Mitch's ass over the next couple of weeks, and he decides to beat the Vikings, the Jaguars, and the Packers, and the Bears squeak into the playoffs, and the Bears have a nice playoff run with Mitch. What do? And also, what does that say about your coaching staff, that they were so incompetent that 6 weeks in the season they benched this guy who just took you to the playoffs? It's a bad look either way.
And on top of that, the Bears were undefeated when they took him out too.
Yeah, it was
all because he had a struggle game against Atlanta. Yeah. And Nick Foles did what a backup was supposed to do. But at the same breath, think about it like this: Mitchell Trubisky as a starter for the Bears he
has a better record than Deshaun Watson, by the way.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. I think the only legit loss that he had was against Green Bay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Nick Foles and the Bears were 6-7.
Yeah.
So you do the math. That means Nick Foles, the only win that Nick Foles legit had as a starter was against Tampa on Thursday night.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, and on top of that,
I think he won 2 games.
because we were 5. So we were 5-1 after that game against you guys, right? We were 5-1. You guys dropped. Yeah, we're 5-1. So he won one more. So he's won 2 games as a starter this year, Nick Foles. Whereas Mitch has won 2 in the last he has a chance with this game to win 2 out of his last 3. So, and also I don't even think he had remember, Mitch had a bad drive against Atlanta. That's how desperate Matt Nagy was to bench the kid, that he had a bad drive. And then, like, in the third quarter, you saw Nick Foles coming, and you're thinking, is he injured? And then, like, they benched him. And, he made a tremendous comeback. But I said this on the show before, too. Was that a comeback that Mitch Trubisky couldn't have made? I don't know. Exactly. I don't think that's true. I think you're going to see really shortly here Mitch trying to prove people wrong. And this is a good game for him to do it against Minnesota, because we just saw Minnesota a couple weeks ago with Nick Foles, and we saw how that worked out. It didn't work out too well.
Exactly. And I think Mitch brings a little bit extra element to this. See, Minnesota, for me, is so – the problem with Minnesota is they're so reliant on the run game of Dalvin Cook and just the run game in general, that if it doesn't work and you have to win games with Kirk Cousins – there's a good 30-70 chance you're going to win that game.
Yeah.
I don't think Kirk Cousins is worth the money that they paid him. I think Dalvin Cook is worth every penny that they paid him. I think Justin Jefferson has come along really well, filling in for Stephon Diggs, who got traded basically for him.
Yeah.
Adam Thielen is still up. And I think, with them missing a couple of tight ends last week, Irv Smith had himself a game against Tampa. But again, you saw last week where when the Bucs were able to maintain Dalvin Cook and keep him after he just had a just crazy first quarter, that they were definitely a shell of who they are. And their defense came into the league this year with so much promise, and they just reeled all the way back. Like, you make the big trade for Yannick Ngakoue, and then within 6 weeks, you didn't trade him again because the team was so bad and the defense was so bad. And you was able to get whatever high value you could out of him in trading him again. So, and then Minnesota kind of made that nice little run where they win 3 games in a row. They stick with the run game. It's working. Kirk Cousins is making plays. Then you had that horrible ass loss against Dallas at home. And then the following week, you almost lose to Jacksonville at home too. So, that's why I think in this game, I like the Bears, be honest, because I think the Bears with Mitch in Chicago, Bears win that game. If Nick Foles is playing in this game, I don't think they beat him. But I think Mitch brings a little bit extra element to make the defense think before they do. You know that Nick Foles ain't running. Mitch can run. So what's the point spread on that?
Yeah, so this one is actually 3-point home favorites are Minnesota. So it'd be -3 on Minnesota.
I'm taking the Bears plus the 3.
Me too. And also you mentioned a good point, which is, different quarterback means a different team for the Bears. But also remember, there was no Akeem Hicks in that game in Chicago a couple weeks ago too, which was so huge because Dalvin Cook was running all over the place on us. This week we'll be missing Buster Screen, but also another thing to take into consideration, the Bears have won in Minnesota the last 2 years. So they're going for a 3rd straight win in Minnesota in the last 3 years. I agree with you. I think the Bears take this one. I think, if Minnesota had a stronger game last week against you guys, I might have thought about it. And again, you mentioned it. If they had beaten up Jacksonville like they were supposed to, if they had beaten up Carolina like they were supposed to, if they had beaten up Dallas like they were supposed to, I think you look at this game a little bit different. But right now, it's hard to pick the Vikings, so I'll take the Bears on the points and the pick 'em as well. Let's talk your Bucks. They're heading to Atlanta as a 6.5-point favorite on the road. Are Tampa Bay? I'll let you take this one away here. We talked about a pretty nice win for your team last week, and a must win obviously in that situation after 2 straight losses. How are you guys feeling this week heading to Atlanta?
Yeah, I like this game. I think this is a game primed for for Tampa to really work out any kinks that they might have as far as offensively is concerned. Rojo is not going to play in this game. He was put on the COVID list.
Yeah.
First he had, I guess, a pin put in his pinky finger because he must have broken it in the game against Minnesota, and then all of a sudden a COVID outbreak comes amongst in Tampa because they had to put Bradley Pinion, Ryan Suckup, and the long snapper, I can't think of his name, on the COVID list. Now, all three of them have been cleared, but Rojo has not been cleared. So Leonard Fournette and Shady McCoy, it looks like they're going to get the bulk of the snaps on this upcoming Sunday. But what really hurts Atlanta is the injured wonder himself. Julio Jones is not going to play with the hamstring injury. And, I think Atlanta is the kind of team where they're in the same position as the Bears are, in where how much longer do you roll with Matt Ryan, and how much longer are you going to roll with Julio Jones?
Yeah.
I feel like their peak hit when they went to the Super Bowl. They were on fire. The defense was playing well, and they've severely regressed. I listened to a podcast, and I thought that Matt Ryan to the Indianapolis Colts would have made sense. Maybe that would have been pre-Phillip Rivers, but that would have made sense. I think a team Washington wasn't that good at the time, but they could really use a quarterback at this point. You don't have Julio Jones, but, I mean, their wide receivers are playing much better than what they were in the beginning of the year on paper. Because on paper, you're like, who in the F are these guys?
Right.
But they're coming out and really playing well. So, I think Atlanta's in the same position. How long do you hang on before it's time to? And that's why I thought I forget what team you were talking about earlier. Oh, Detroit. We'll talk about them later, but I think Detroit and Atlanta always put themselves in this precarious position because in a time where it's time for you to lose so you can suck, so you can get a top 10 pick, because Matt Ryan has the winning attitude and because Matt Stafford has the winning attitude, and they just don't go down and quit, they're always going to be 7-9, 8-8 teams, which usually get you 13, somewhere between 13 and 17 picks. So you miss out on the top guys. You got to hope that they suck so much that they fall to you, or you got to make some out of this world trade to get up to 10.
Right.
And so that's why I think Atlanta and Detroit over the years have been in such mediocrity per se, because in Detroit's case, either they're in the top 10 and they either get a cornerback that they don't even need, or they're in the teens, right? Or they're in the teens and they draft the tight end. As if that they don't have other holes to work on.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Atlanta's kind of been in the same boat where it's like, okay, we drafted Vic Beasley. Okay, he's okay.
No longer on the team anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
But
even Tack McKinley. I mean, you just kind of sprung my memory. I mean, Tack McKinley no longer on the team anymore. He was their number one pick not too long ago. Vic Beasley not on the team, hasn't been on the team for almost 2 years now. He was their number one pick from a few years ago. They've done Thomas Dimitroff, you have to give him credit for some of the free agency pickups, but the draft, he's been terrible. And even like A.J. Terrell this year, they took him cornerback. I mean, Terrell has been one of the worst statistically cornerbacks in the league. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, you have to really understand here, if you're Atlanta, and Detroit's another perfect example, and I'll even give you another good example here later, but the team is not as bad. New Orleans, like, next year, are you going to ride with Drew Brees again? Are you going to bring back Taysom Hill? Are you going to bring back Jameis Winston? You're up in the air, too, because you're not going to get a high enough pick to draft a quarterback. They're in the same position, but I agree. You've got to, like, it's a shit or get off the pot moment here. Like, either figure out what you're going to do now. I think Atlanta was worried earlier this year. They didn't want to trade Matt Ryan or Julio Jones because they would eat, like, so much dead cap out of it. But I think a lot of that ends after the season. So, like, in the offseason, you can trade Matt Ryan, you can trade Julio Jones and get some nice chips for that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm exactly with you. Keith asked me earlier, he said, how do I feel about losing Donovan Smith this week? Donovan Smith is another one that's on the COVID list. So I don't know what happened between the Bucks were just fine until Minnesota showed up, and now all of a sudden,
Minnesota gave them
4 or 5 guys are now all of a sudden on the COVID-19 list.
Yeah.
It's a loss. I'm anxious to see what Tampa Bay does to replace him. Because you still got the big monster who I still think should be – he's not going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, but he should definitely get some consideration votes. And Tristan Wirfs, see what you can get out of the kid out of the left side. I mean, he's a beast with Alex Kappa on the right side. My head says just keep him on the right side because if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Right.
My heart says move him to the left and see what he can do over there with it's him, Marpet, and then Jansen on that left side. And then you got Jansen, Kappa, and then whoever's going to be on the right side. So it's going to be a loss. I think Donovan Smith is a much better run blocker than he ever has been a pass blocker. But Tampa Bay, because it's Tom Brady and they fall in love with him, are always passing the damn ball when at times we should be running it.
Yeah.
Clearly, I like Tampa in this.
Yeah.
One thing I want to see Tampa do in this game is mix up the wide receiving packages. Tom Brady threw a strike or an actual perfect pass to Scotty Miller. And as Buck fans were saying, Scotty Miller needs more time.
And you called for it. You called for it yourself 2 weeks ago, saying like Scotty Miller's not on the field enough.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I would love to see them because everyone's like, oh, everything got ruined when Antonio Brown came in. Actually, that's not true. I think the only thing Antonio Brown did was take away playing time from Scotty Miller. But Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians at some point have to figure out a way to sprinkle them in there.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to want to run a 3 wide receiver set and it's 2nd and 2, Godwin can sit.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown can sit. Here's a crazy idea. Mike Evans can sit if he wants to.
Yeah.
Because that's a prime example, especially if you just got 8 yards on a run. That's got play action written all over it. And Scotty Miller has proven over the course of the year that he can get separation from a lot of these corners.
Yeah.
So you got to get him in there. And the same with Tyler Johnson, who was our 3rd-round draft pick. He was starting to get a little chemistry with Tom Brady, especially in the red zone before Antonio Brown came in. So I think what Antonio Brown has brought to this team that a lot of people don't want to point out, he's almost been Tom Brady's favorite target when it comes to getting first down.
Yeah.
You know, him and Chris Godwin have been that guy. Mike Evans has really been your touchdown guy.
Red zone, yeah.
Scotty Miller has been your deep threat guy. And Godwin and Gronk and Antonio Brown have really been your first down guys. So somehow it would be almost beneficial for Tampa to really come with sets where you can rotate these wide receivers and keep them fresh so that these guys aren't coming out tight. It just, in my head, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
But I would love to see them do that this week against Atlanta. I think Tom Brady's going to have a huge game. Hopefully Leonard Fournette can have himself a big game because he was a healthy scratch last week, which was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. They put him as a healthy scratch. They gave the ball to Rojo would have had 100 yards if he didn't break his pinky.
Yeah. Because
Shady and Keyshawn Vaughn got a lot of the carries towards the end of that game, and now we know why. But this is time for Leonard Fournette. And even if Leonard Fournette's not playing for Tampa next year, this is for a team that can use a running back. Giants.
Bears. Yeah, Bears. Yeah.
Having a 1-2. So I like Tampa. You said -8.
Yeah,
and a half?
Yeah, they're giving Atlanta. Yep, 6.5. I'm sorry, 6.5 points. 6.5. Yeah, I'm taking. And I'm taking. I'm taking Tampa Bay too, both on the points and the pick 'em. And I'm really interested to see what Fournette looks like in a non-passing down role. I think that's a huge mistake and an oversight by Arians and Leftwich. This guy is not a passing down back. He is a 1st and 2nd down, give him the rock and let him run through somebody. The problem is you already have somebody who's really good at that in Ronald Jones, right? So you're like, okay, let's bring in, Leonard Fournette as our pass catcher or a passing down guy. He's not a passing down guy. So I'm interested to see what Keyshawn Vaughn and LaShawn McCoy can do on 3rd down and in passing situations because let's be honest, both Rojo and Fournette have disappointed when it comes to catching the ball. I know Rojo had a really nice catch and run a couple weeks ago, but they've both dropped balls. They both missed assignments on pass blocks and stuff like that. And again, that's what gets quarterbacks like Tom Brady killed. So interested to see what Fournette looks like in like a first and second down role.
Yep, I'm with you on that.
All right, cool. Let's talk another NFC matchup. San Francisco is going to Dallas. Dallas coming off of a pretty, handy win. I mean, that win against Cincinnati, I thought it would be a lot closer, but 30-7 they took it. It was a pretty impressive performance by the defense of Dallas. They got a couple of defensive takeaways and I think a defensive touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, last week to Dallas. And then San Francisco in their own rights coming off of 4 out of their last 5 games have been losses. And then that one against Washington, which again, I'm big on Washington right now. I think Washington's defense, dude, that is going to be a really tough defense to play against in cold weather situations and playoff situations. With that front four that they have playmakers in the back four as well. I think linebackers, they've got guys who could fly around, and San Francisco just didn't have enough. And right now San Francisco is an extremely banged up team. It's easy to forget that they are an extremely banged up team right now. They're missing 3 out of their best 4 players on defense, missing Jimmy Garoppolo, missing George Kittle. Deebo Samuel is injured. I know right now they're having some problem. Mostert's been injured throughout the season as well. But yeah,
they can't play games in San Francisco.
Exactly. Yeah, and those quote unquote home games in Arizona don't feel the same, I guess, for those players because they haven't won a game since they switched over there. And yeah, it's honestly. This is a pretty interesting one because San Francisco is a favorite coming into this one. And I think that's a really huge oversight in my mind because if you're giving Dallas 3 points, which they are right now, they're giving Dallas 3 points at home. Man, I think Vegas is really overestimating San Francisco because their defense is still well coached, but they're missing so many pieces. And you saw it against Washington last week. Like Washington was missing Antonio Gibson. They were missing some of their biggest players on offense, and they were able to get it done. So I actually like Dallas in this one, man. I think Dallas has something to fight for. I think San Francisco doesn't, and I think Dallas, especially if you're giving them 3 points, I'm going to take Dallas both on the pick'em and on the points here.
Yeah, I like Dallas too. If San Francisco was healthy, I would have taken San Francisco. Yeah. But you said that they're beat up, physically they're beat up, dude. I think this whole season on the 49ers, If any team, I think in the NFC or in the NFL period, could really hit the reset button and wish they could do it all over again, I think San Francisco's that team. First I still think the trade for DeForest Buckner made sense, but you trade DeForest Buckner, you got a decent pick out of him, and then the next thing you know, this guy gets hurt, that guy gets hurt, and then you're playing running back by committee. But it was all good about a week ago because, and I'm using a rap reference because at the end of the day, they were bringing in guys off the street and they were still managing to get 100 yards. But then their last carry of the game, bang, hamstring and gone for 2 weeks. So then you didn't have Garoppolo for the longest. Mm-hmm, Kittle's been hurt with the ankle injury. Nate Mullins isn't the feel-good quarterback that he was last year when he filled in for Garoppolo. So yeah, and then you're told by Santa Clara officials you can't even play football here, let alone you having fans here.
Yeah.
And I think that's been beating them up too. So I feel bad for the 49ers because I think they're a very good football team, and I thought they could have really been in this mix. But, man, the football gods have not been good to them.
No,
so I like Dallas plus the 3. I think Dallas is going to ride that momentum a little bit. I know it was Cincinnati, but it was a win. It's a win that they needed, and I think they're going to keep going. I think Andy Dalton might have himself a good game come Sunday.
Yeah, and Dallas, man, you can go into the locker room and actually pitch a scenario where if you win this game, you could make the playoffs. Like you've still
They'll
got
make the playoffs.
Yeah. So that's a huge and as bad as Mike McCarthy has been this year, that's pretty nice to be able to say you're still in the playoff hunt with the last 3 weeks of the season still there. So interesting to see what happens there. All right. Let's talk the Titans. They're going to be hosting the Lions. Titans last week. Man, I mean, just when the Titans kind of disappoint you against Cleveland, and then you're thinking maybe this is a trap game against Jacksonville, they come out and just beat the brakes off of Jacksonville, and that wasn't a huge surprise. But then Detroit, I mean, I'll be honest with you, other than that ugly performance against Carolina and other than that ugly Thanksgiving Day game against Houston, they beat the Bears and played the Bears, tough till the end. And the Bears, they gave up the game, but you still are able to say you won that game. And man, I was impressed with them last week against the Packers because they had no business being in that game, and they just found ways to stay in it. But 9.5 point favorites are Tennessee at home, and I see this the same way that I think Vegas sees this. I think Tennessee's going to run the ball all over Detroit. I think it's going to be a lot of Derrick Henry. I think you're going to see a lot of different sort of short game moves by Tannehill. And I think they use this game Tennessee does as a little bit of a springboard because we've talked about going down the stretch, what it's going to look like. The Titans have their last home game here against Detroit, and then they take on Green Bay at Lambeau the following week, and then they end the season in Houston. So not exactly shoe-in, give-me games here, and you're still in a tough race. So I think Tennessee understands the urgency. I think they think this is a must-win game because it is, and I like the Titans in this one.
And you like the Titans minus?
I like it. Yeah, I like a minus the 9.5 too. I just my or plus minus 9.5 and plus 9.5 for the Lions. I just right now the Lions, man, no Kenny Golladay. The offense, I know they get DeAndre Swift back, but they had him back last week and it just didn't look right. I still think right now the Lions need a lot. They need a facelift. I'm okay with them having Darrell Bevell as the interim, but they need to look at it at a sort of a culture change next year and figure out who they want to come in here, like a Brian Flores type. I know they tried that with Matt Patricia, didn't work out. They need that really badly right now. Does Detroit?
Yeah, I think Tennessee's going to win this game. But I'm actually going to go out on a limb and say that I'm going to take the Lions plus the 9.5 with the points because
it's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points, but dude, Detroit actually has been the perennial addition by subtraction.
True.
Yes, they're 1-1 after Matt Patricia, but you said it best. They beat the Bears 2 weeks ago, and then they hung in tough with Green Bay last week. So the effort is now there.
Yep.
It may not be going into wins, but the effort is there.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what you're looking for. Is it just that the team sucks, or was it because our coaching staff were not preparing these guys to be in the position to where they could win? And I personally think that it was the latter, that Matt Patricia was just not doing a great job coaching. And as I mentioned, they're always drafting defensive backs and tight ends every single flipping year when they have so many other issues. So that's why the GM, I can't think of his name, lost his job.
Bob Quinn.
But Tennessee's been so up and down that, on paper, it looks like, this could be the Derrick Henry show. He's going to run so crazy. But because Detroit has been putting in that effort, I think the Titans are going to win. Yeah. But point-wise, I'll take the Lions plus points.
Yeah, 9.5 points is a lot of points to give to a team, especially in this day and age of the NFL. If you're giving 9.5 points to a team, they pretty much have to play as bad as they can play to drop under that. So, all right. Interesting. Right. We will see what that looks like next week. But Indianapolis, another AFC South team here. going to be hosting the aforementioned Texans, who just had an absolutely atrocious game against the Bears. And Indianapolis 7.5-point favorites at home. They are going to be going for the sweep here and hoping to go 10-4. And as we mentioned, they are hoping to stay right there with Tennessee. And at the same time, right now the AFC is a really tough, really like. The AFC playoffs is going to be must-watch television from game one. NFC, you can probably skip the first week and you'll be fine. But AFC playoffs, man, that's going to be must-watch television. But yeah, I still like the Colts in this one. After what I saw from Houston last week against what is probably a lesser team in the Bears than the Colts, I have a hard time imagining a game where the Colts sort of give this away. Jonathan Taylor's coming into his own. Naheem Hines coming into his own. The offensive line is finally healthy. We talked about how good the offensive line is in Indianapolis, but they've been banged up for a lot of this season. So now they finally have their core in there. I know DeForest Buckner's a little bit banged up, but he's questionable to play, so I would assume he will play. I like Indianapolis on this one, both on the points and the pick 'em. And again, Indianapolis going at home is a 7.5-point favorite, so giving 7.5 points to the Texans. I still like the Colts in that one.
Yeah, I already wrote down the Colts minus 7.5. I mentioned it earlier. I just think Houston right now they don't have an identity of what they want to do.
Right.
And we're seeing it this season. Bill O'Brien, I think, outsmarted himself, thinking that he could trade DeAndre Hopkins because he didn't want to pay him an extra $2 million, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And $2 million since you has a team that had so much promise and could have been in the mix with the Colts and the Titans for this South. Mm-hmm. And this team just looks like crap. So, yeah, I like the Colts minus the 7.5 on this one. And to be honest with you, they kind of shut the both of us up because we were talking about their inconsistencies. Yeah. And they went out there and dropped the 44 spot on the Raiders. And I know they're not good defensively, but we know sometimes the Colts can be their own worst enemies, and they looked amazing last week. So I'm not gonna make the same mistake twice. I like the Colts.
Yeah, and when the Colts stop shooting themselves in the foot, watch out, because the defense is good. The defense has the playmakers on it. So yeah, I think you hit that on the head. We've given them some flack, but I think they've proven us wrong here over the last couple of weeks. Interesting AFC East matchup, and I've seen a lot of this, upset alerts here as Miami is 8-5 and hosting New England. Miami just a very slight favorite. Las Vegas having a hard time, giving too many points to the Patriots in a matchup against the Dolphins. But I really think that this one is a big game for Miami. Not only like for this season, but like moving forward, like beating up the big brother and being able to say we beat them up, and twice in a season in this case, would be really, really nice. And I think obviously the Dolphins have, they've got a little bit. First of all, I was disappointed with when they benched Ryan Fitzpatrick, because I thought, the guy was playing well. You have the momentum. People like playing with him and for him, and you bench him for Tua. But in reality, right now, the team hasn't really skipped a beat. They've been able to stay relatively afloat with even minimal effort from Tua, who, I'll be honest, Tua has not looked like number one pick worthy Tua that we thought. And I think that's part of the reason why they're playing him right now, because, again, we have to remember this, and I want to bring this up on almost every show that we talk about the Dolphins. They have Houston's pick next year. They will likely be picking another top 3, top 5, maybe top 10 pick next year, and that may be another quarterback. Again, with the short leashes on quarterbacks nowadays, Tua has to show up, but I think this is a really good opportunity. And I said they beat up on them earlier, but I'm actually wrong about that. That was a close game, but it was the first game of the season. It was one where Cam was just running all over the place, and New England won that game. So, I still like Miami in this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if anybody took New England just based on the history of these two teams. I still like Miami, both minus the 2 and on the pick 'em. I think they have an overall better team, and I was honestly impressed with Miami last week against Kansas City, because like not including us, and I don't know about you, but like including me, I didn't really give them much of a chance to be within 6 points. And the way that their defense played, they picked off Patrick Mahomes a couple of times. They ate the clock a lot and were doing a good job of scoring when they were in the red zone. Have some really nice playmakers, and they only lost by 6 points to what a lot of people think is the best team in the league, and Jesus Mahomes himself. So I think it's impressive if you ask me.
I'm with you on that. They definitely played them hard. As a matter of fact, I don't think Kansas City grabbed the lead until maybe going into halftime if it wasn't the third quarter. Because Miami was dominating them, and then they go into half. They get a couple of gimme touchdowns, and then like you said, Jesus Mahomes kind of shined the light, for lack of a better way of putting it, and came away with the win. But you had to give Miami the biggest A++ for effort. They really hung in there. Dude, Miami has a really good defense.
Yeah.
You remember they signed Byron Jones away from the Dallas Cowboys, and we're seeing how bad Dallas's defense is right now. How much they could have kept Byron Jones, along with some other pieces they have on defense. But I'm 100% with you on the whole. With Ryan Fitzpatrick benching with Tua, I thought Miami. At the end of the day, the stars aligned for Miami, where if they did everything right, they would almost be in the same boat as Kansas City. Yeah. And what I mean by that is, remember when Patrick Mahomes was drafted, Alex Smith played a full 16-game season, which included a playoff spot. Mm-hmm. The Dolphins could have did the same damn thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick. You don't need to see this year. First of all, you tanked for Tua. Everybody and their mama, the way Miami played the first 3 or 4 games last year, when they were going out there getting obliterated left and right, to where, not Ryan Fitzpatrick, the other one, Minka Fitzpatrick, didn't even want to be there anymore. Yeah. So they're like, okay, well, Pittsburgh's willing to give us a first-round draft pick, so we'll go ahead and trade you. And could you imagine how good that defense would have been if flipping Minka would have just been patient and just rolled away? Byron Jones and Minka Fitzpatrick in the same defensive backfield would have been insanely sick. Yeah. But so you trade a guy that didn't want to be there, and they were just getting obliterated. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick and his team started to gain a little mo, but the Dolphins still drafted, I think it was 4th in the draft, and there were teams ahead of them that clearly could have taken Tua. Yeah. Washington could have clearly taken Tua. The Giants, in a crazy way, could have taken Tua. But obviously Washington went with Chase Young. The Giants went with Andrew Thomas. So it fell in the laps of the Dolphins. So they were being competitive. Yeah. They had a really good offseason. And then you sit at the 4th pick with the quarterback that you've wanted since the beginning, the season started. Now that you got him, let him sit. Right. Let him learn the playbook. The man hasn't played in a year to an obvious hip injury. With bigger, stronger, faster guys in the NFL, you don't want to mess around and get Tua hurt. No. And they were like 4-2 or something when they benched Ryan Fitzpatrick. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you on that. But the defense has been really holding in because, like you said, Tua hasn't been looking like Dan Marino all of a sudden. No. And bro, what if I told you that some Miami fans are even upset that they drafted Tua, seeing how good Justin Herbert is right. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but for this game in particular, I'm with you. I like the Dolphins minus the 2. New England right now is just way too up and down. Like 1 week you can shut out the Los Angeles Chargers, and the next week you only score 3 points against the Rams. And I know a lot of teams have struggled against the Rams defense, but not like that. No. Not to a point where Cam got benched for that Nate Sedman or Seaman or whatever the hell his name is. Right. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? So,
no, yeah, 100%.
And I think Miami's going to give New England fits 2. So I like Miami minus the 2.
Yeah, Miami can run the ball too. That's another thing. Is like that's the reason why they've been doing so well, even without having to play like an all-star, because they can run the ball. Like they've even with like lesser running backs. I mean, let's think about the running back that they're trotting out there. Miles Gaskin at the beginning of the season, not even a guy that was worth a note last year. Matt Breida, Jordan Howard, Savon Ahmed. I've never even heard of this guy before, and he was running the ball. So yeah, that's to me, when we talk about, because a lot of people are like, what do you mean by identity, right? Like, what do you mean by a team doesn't have an identity? That's what an identity is. An identity is, I don't have to have the best players on the offensive line. I don't have to have the best, skill position players. I know what I'm going to do, though. I'm still going to run the ball. I'm still going to, run stretches on third down. I'm still going to run draws on first down, because that's my identity. So I think Miami has done a good job of finding their identity, and I think they'll, again, it's a huge, huge game for them, because if they win this, again, you take that monkey off your back and you move on to the next week where you can, again, find yourself into a pretty nice position. If they win this game, they're 9-5. I mean, that's a really, really nice improvement for Miami. So
in a tight AFC for the playoffs too.
Tight, yeah, and again, we don't know what's going to happen here with the Bills and the Broncos. The Bills are already up 7-0. I don't know what happened, but again, if the Bills, for argument's sake, lose that game, Miami's playing for a lot more here. All right, let's switch back to the NFC. The aforementioned Washington football team, I'm not going to call them their former team this week. The Washington football team is going to be hosting Seattle, who is 9-4, but Seattle has taken some steps back here. I know they had a really nice win against the Jets. I think me and you could suit up with 9 other guys, and I think you and I, we'd have a pretty decent chance against the Jets. So I'm not going to give them too much credit for that. But again, the loss to the Giants the week before, very close game against the Eagles almost 3 weeks ago, and then the Arizona game, which, it was up and down for them, and they ended up winning that game too. But Washington coming off of 4 straight wins, Cincinnati, Dallas on Thanksgiving, that really impressive game against Pittsburgh, and last week against San Francisco. Vegas is giving So Seattle road favorites, 6.5-point road favorites are Seattle going into Washington. I'm surprised by that. I know Alex Smith is out. There's a lot of doubt about the skill position players for Washington, but man, this might be the toughest pick of the week so far, because I really like Washington's defense. I really, really like. I think Washington has a playoff defense right now. I think the problem with that is that I'm not sure if Dwayne Haskins is going to be the guy to drive them down the field and score the points that they need here. I'm going to take Washington in this game, and here's why. It just dawned on me right now. I know they don't have Antonio Gibson, but what this Washington defense can do is game-changing. They can switch around a game in a second. They showed it in the last couple of games. I know specifically against San Francisco. San Francisco was going to be in control in most of that game, and it took a Chase Young pick 6. It took a pretty nice play by, I believe it was Kendall Fuller on defense, and 2 turnovers. Boom, Washington's back in the game, and next thing you know, they win the game 23-15. I think here's what I would say. If you're going to give me 6.5 points and I'm Washington, I'm taking Washington every single day. So I'll take Washington on the points. And yeah, you know what, man? I'm going to go all in. I'm going to take Washington on both, because I'm so confident in this defense, I might as well. And again, if you give them 6.5 points, I think they win. So I'll take Washington.
Yeah, I thought you started off your prediction right, where Seattle has kind of been meh over the last handful of weeks. They're 9 they're that. When the Bears were 5-1, your famous quote was, "This might be the worst 5-1 team I've ever seen."
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Seattle's the worst 9-4 team. I think they're the luckiest 9-4 team in the game. True. Because Russell Wilson has had to be Superman just to keep Seattle in games, because their defense is so bad. But I'm with you where I feel like this front seven is going to give Russell Wilson fits. And, with Chase Young and Jonathan Allen and these guys up front. And I think Dwayne Haskins, you are, everyone that knows me knows how I feel about Ohio State quarterbacks. Yeah. but Seattle's defense is so below average where I think Dwayne Haskins can make plays. So I'm with you. I'm actually going to take Washington plus the 6.5 as well. Just because if Seattle was any better, I'd have been like, okay, maybe Seattle wins, but maybe I would have taken Washington in the points. But I'm with you. I'm going all in with it. I like the football. I like the football team.
The football team, yeah, that's the new Reddit craze. Is Washington football team is like everybody's a Washington football team on Reddit now because they've got a really nice story. I mean, again, last year we talked about how much we hated Jay Gruden and this dude is just the biggest clown, and everybody it was like the exact opposite. They brought in a guy that everybody loves in Riverboat Ron, and they started off the season on a tough note, just like everybody else in their division. But again, to be 4 wins in a row now, going for their 5th, that's really impressive.
It really is.
All right, how about a quick one for us? Because we haven't done a quick one in a while. I'll do this as quick as possible. Baltimore is hosting Jacksonville, and they are 13-point favorites. Who you got?
Ravens minus 13.
All right, we'll take it. We'll make it easy for everyone here. Both of us. How about you know what? I like that quick one so much, I'll give you another quick one. How about this? The Jets are going to L.A. They are 0-13 at this point, and they are facing the Rams, who are 17-point favorites at home. Yeah, I'm going to take the Rams in this one, but if you are a betting guru, I would not be mad at you if you took the Jets plus the 17 because that's a lot of points.
I'm taking the Rams minus the 17 because their defense is
insane. And by the way, I believe Minshew Mania will be back this week for the Jaguars. So we'll see
Not gonna help.
Yeah, we'll see how much that helps. I like Glennon Mania a little bit better than Minshew Mania, so I think we'll pass on that. All right, cool. The Eagles, man, Jalen, what a difference a quarterback can make. You draft this kid, and by the way, Philadelphia, tore into the Eagles for drafting him because they have so many needs. You could see it on their team when you watch them. Like, they need offensive line, they need another running back more than likely. They need at least 3 or 4 pieces on the defensive side of the ball. But Jalen Hurts, really nice game, and I think a lot of people are going to say, well, New Orleans, probably didn't look at them and take them seriously. I don't think that's really true. I think, Philadelphia's defense, by the way, is pretty good. They still have a lot of things they need, but they're pretty good. And Jalen Hurts did what he had to do to win the game and made plays. And Miles Sanders looked good as well. So yeah, Philadelphia is actually going to Arizona here. Arizona is a 6.5-point favorite at home. Arizona is going to be just a little bit banged up defensively, and same thing with Philadelphia. They're missing Darius Slay and a couple of other cornerbacks, but I actually like Arizona in this game. I'm very interested to watch this game and see how Jalen Hurts does in his second game with some tape on him now and a team watching tape and seeing how he plays. But I still like Arizona, even though Arizona has sort of disappointed. That win against the Giants last week was a statement game because a lot of people were thinking that was going to be an easy win for the Giants. The way that they won against Pittsburgh, it was going to be okay, go in and just beat the Cardinals at home, and it just didn't happen. And I think Arizona's defense is slowly getting better. I think their offense is, we talk about identities. It's hard to have an identity in a air raid formation like that, right? Because it's about unpredictability, it's about improvisation, and it's very hard to have an identity. But I think they're starting to build that. Let's remember, you and I think the Rams are one of the best, if not the best, defense in the league, and they put up 28 against them. The only problem is they gave up 38 against the Rams in that game. So I like the Cardinals in this one. I think you'll finally start to see the Eagles put to bed, and I think after this week it'll be a 2-team race with the Giants and the Washington football team.
You're taking them minus the 6.5.
I am taking them minus the 6.5, and I'm taking them. I just think right now it's going to be too hard for them to stop Kyler Murray, so I'm going to take them both on the pick 'em and the points.
I'm going to take the Cardinals to win, but I'm actually on the point side going to side with the Eagles just because I was very impressed with the way Jalen Hurts played against New Orleans last week. I
Yeah.
was so impressed that I almost want to say that the Eagles may have exposed the Saints
The Saints,
defense.
yeah.
Because remember, everyone was like, "Oh my God, this defense is so great. They've been playing so awesome." And Jalen Hurts broke all that nonsense down. Because I'll tell you what, if Carson Wentz was in that game, not so much where I thought they would have won or not, but maybe the exposure would not have been there. Because Carson Wentz ain't running the way Jalen Hurts is running in that game. It's not even close. So maybe people take tape of that. Maybe they don't. We'll see. But Arizona, I'm with you. I thought Arizona's win last week was huge against the Giants, who were red hot coming into that game last week. And Arizona kind of humbled them last week. So I think they can beat the Eagles at home. But I think Jalen Hurts, sometimes when you bring that new quarterback in and you win a football game, there's that spark that usually comes with it. And I think the Eagles are going to have it to where they're competitive.
Yeah.
But Arizona clearly is the better team of the two. So I like the Cardinals to win, but I'll take the Eagles plus the 6.5.
Let me ask you, what do you think about Doug Peterson's job if they lose this game? Do you think he's safe? And if they miss the playoffs, let's say, for example, do you bring him back for another year, based on the Super Bowl a couple years ago?
A piece of me says yes, because I feel like Doug Peterson likes to run the whole gadget-like offense,
right.
the RPOs and the option plays and all that stuff. And Jalen Hurts clearly fits in the mold of what Doug Peterson wants to do. Yeah. So with him being in the game now, and with him maybe being able to run the offense the way Doug Peterson wants him to, I think there's a good chance that Doug Peterson comes back, because the Philly brass will say, okay, got your guy. We'll worry about Carson Wentz. Jalen Hurts is going to start. We'll get you we'll fix the O-line, maybe get you another weapon or so. But I'll tell you what, if you have this record like this next year, I think you're done. So I think if the Eagles continue to play well and maybe win a game here and there as time goes on, I think Doug Peterson keeps his job. But, right now the whole Eagles team, for the most part, has really been a lost cause. It's been a lost cause for them this season. And I feel like every time their name comes up, it's all for the wrong reasons. So,
yeah, good point.
You know what I'm saying? So, I think that let's say if Philly does come out and beat Arizona, I do think Doug Peterson's job is safe.
Did they extend Wentz? My phone isn't working as well. Did they extend Wentz, by the way? Or did they pay him? I really hope they didn't. For their sake.
Something tells me I think they did.
They did? Okay. I'll make sure to get that clarified before the end of the show when my internet starts working. But I want to talk about what's possibly the game of the week here. In New Orleans, it'll be the Kansas City Chiefs heading over to New Orleans to the Superdome. They are 3-point favorites on the road, and Kansas City, we mentioned them, has won a whole lot lately and won that game against Miami last week while not looking their best, whereas New Orleans, stayed in that game while not looking their best as well, and were managed to come out of that without the worst ending. It was a loss, but again, it was a close game towards the end. Both teams are going to be missing some offensive linemen, some defensive linemen, but I think this is going to be a really interesting matchup, and I like the Chiefs overall. I just have a hard time picking against the Chiefs at this point, especially against a team that just lost to the Eagles. So I'll take the Chiefs both with the points in the pick 'em here.
What's the Chiefs?
It's -3 coming in on the road, so 3-point favorites on the road. And you know what? I'm sorry.
And supposedly, is Drew Brees trying to come back for this game?
Yeah, so they designated him to return, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play. It just means he's available to practice and return if they want him to.
Okay.
I haven't seen a full decision, but I have seen a lot of people in fantasy dropping Taysom Hill, which leads me to believe that Drew is probably going to be starting this game.
Which I think is a mistake, but
me too. You just roll with Taysom.
Good Chris Jones hit is going to take him out for the career.
Right.
You're coming off fresh. It is not fresh, but you're coming off of broken ribs. At your age, at 41 or whatever Drew Brees is, you sure you want to come back so soon? I just would have let New Orleans. You know what, dude? You know what I think it is? Let me say this. All right, first off, Carson Wentz did extend his contract.
Yeah, I just saw
they
that.
They signed him in 2019 to a $128 million extension.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that, exactly. But, bro, that loss to Philly for New Orleans made them nervous. You want to know why? Because, okay, Tampa has a 96% chance of winning the playoffs. But what if I told you they had almost as bit of a 4% chance? I just made that up, but it's very low. They could still win the NFC South.
Right.
If Tampa wins out and New Orleans loses out, Tampa Bay could still win the South.
Wow.
To make it even crazier, they had to have been like, okay, so the New Orleans next 3 games is Kansas City, home against Kansas City, home against Minnesota, at Carolina. Tampa's next 3 games is at Atlanta, at Detroit, home against Atlanta. So, and knowing that Tampa Bay beats up on bad teams, somewhere New Orleans is like, dude, we got to do something because Kansas City's going to be no easy out.
Yeah.
Minnesota, for what it's worth, can be no easy out.
Sure. And
Carolina's on the fence where they're like, man, dude, Tom Brady could put up world beater MVP numbers against Atlanta twice in Detroit.
Yeah.
We cannot risk it. So if they do bring back Drew, I think there's a piece of New Orleans that says, hey, I'm a little desperate right now because we cannot afford to lose the NFC South, knowing that Tampa has such an easy schedule in these next 3 games. So I'm taking the Chiefs in this one because my heart and mind tells me to take the Chiefs. So I'm going to take the Chiefs on this. Yeah, dude, I would be concerned because all New Orleans has to do is win. If they win or if Tampa loses,
it's theirs.
Then New Orleans wins the South.
Yeah.
But if Tampa wins and New Orleans, well, it's like you running from the cops. It's like when you feel like somebody's chasing you from the back, so you're like, oh, this guy's trying to chase me. I'm gonna hit the gas, and it keeps creeping up, and they keep creeping up to you, and it's the cops. That's what Tampa Bay is being right now on New Orleans. It's like, hey, dude, is that the Bucs truck back there? Nah, that's not them. They're too far back. Then a few minutes later, dude, that thing looks red, bro. You're like, oh, shit, it's the Bucs truck. Because they've now come back and have threatened the NFC South. So
Tom Brady's in the driver's seat. Tom Brady's in the driver's seat, just like, Jeff Gordon in it.
Exactly. That's why those losses to the Rams and the Chiefs in the way that they lost come up huge. Because they needed at least one of those that the probability would look so bad. But there's still a chance. And the Kansas City Chiefs at this point could not have come to New Orleans at a better time.
Yeah. Especially for Tampa. Yeah, so, for sure.
So I like Chiefs.
Okay, cool. We will both agree on that one. Let's go to the last the last game of Sunday, which will be the Sunday night game. I believe this got flexed into the Sunday night game, if I'm not mistaken. It was the Browns and Giants game that is the Sunday night game, and the Giants
I think this
got flexed in, right? Yeah, I thought it did. One thing that I read, and I will confirm as we talk here, but I read that I believe the Giants will be benching Daniel Jones, and it'll be Colt McCoy for this game. I think they think that Daniel Jones is a little bit too ailing, so I wanna give you the floor here. It's a 6.5 point favorite for the Browns after the Browns went into. It was an impressive performance against Baltimore, but again, it's a tough loss to take. But they are 6.5 point favorites on the road, and I just want to check on this Colt McCoy thing because again, I could have swore I woke up this morning and saw that Colt McCoy was going to be starting for them. And yep, sources: New York Giants to start QB Colt McCoy over injured Daniel Jones. That just came out 3 hours ago. That changes things. Yeah. I mean,
last time Colt McCoy went into a game that a lot of people thought they was going to lose.
That's what I'm saying.
Seattle Seahawks on the road.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I think right now the Giants defense is really good, but I also think the Baltimore defense is pretty good, and Baltimore gave up 42 to this Cleveland team not just a couple days ago. I have a hard time imagining, even if the Giants do a really good job this week, that they can score enough points to be able to win this game, especially with Cleveland hitting on all cylinders. Let's be honest. They really are hitting on all cylinders right now. It's just hard to imagine Baker taking such a huge step back and this offensive line taking such a huge step back. So I'll take Cleveland both on the points and the pick 'em. I think giving 6.5 points to the Giants is a tough one for bettors. So I wouldn't exactly see this as a lock betting wise, but in the pick 'em, I certainly will still take Cleveland in this one.
I'm with you on that. This one is tough, and as I mentioned the last time, we thought, Cole, was going to be on his backside looking at the sky. This man beat the Seattle Seahawks on the road.
True.
But I think the Cleveland Browns are a different monster. So I'm going to take the Browns minus the 6.5. I'm not too confident on that.
Me too.
But I'm going to take the Browns minus the 6.5.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting game.
Yeah. And again, because I still think the Giants are a decent team, but, man. Yeah, I'm just going to take the Browns minus 6.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We'll let the players decide the rest. Okay, cool. And then Monday night, I'll make this quick. I think Pittsburgh's going to bounce back and win this one. They are going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati 2-10-1. No Joe Burrow, obviously. 11-2 are Pittsburgh, coming off of 2 straight losses. But Pittsburgh's still 14.5 point favorites. That's the only thing I will mention here, is that I think Pittsburgh will win the game. But if you're a betting person, going to Cincinnati, the way that Pittsburgh has played the last couple weeks, I would not expect a huge 21 plus point win for Pittsburgh here. So I'll still take Pittsburgh even with minus 14.5. But again, if you're a betting person, which I am not, I will certainly not look at you funny if you tell me that you think Cincinnati can win plus 14.5.
Nah, I'm gonna stick with the Steelers minus the 14.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine.
If Joe Burrow's playing, maybe.
Yeah, right.
He's not playing.
Yeah, and honestly, I was expecting them to play a lot better than they did last week against Dallas. Like, the way that they played against Dallas really showed me that the team is just not there, because they played tough against the Giants but lost the game. They played tough against the Miami Dolphins but lost the game. And then last week it was 30-7 versus the Cowboys. So, all right, that was the last NFL game of the week. So we'll let you know how we did next week rather. But another kind of a weird week next week as well, just to get you prepared. I don't think there's no Thursday night game. It'll be a Christmas Day game next week. Vikings versus Saints. And then we'll have a couple of Saturday games again. Your team will actually be playing on Saturday next week. It'll be the Buccaneers versus the Lions next week on Saturday. So that will be day after Christmas Day. We'll have 3 games on that Saturday and a pretty short Sunday on my birthday on the 27th. So that will be an interesting. Yes, sir. So hoping for a big Bears win versus the Jaguars on that game. But okay, cool. I want to talk about Brian Kelly because we kind of brushed over it, but I want to kind of get your idea on Brian Kelly. So go right ahead.
All right, so I don't know if you heard this, but I heard this last night. I almost lost my mind. So you know that one of the 2 semifinals this year is the Rose Bowl,
right?
And obviously we just mentioned earlier with all the things going on in California, COVID-wise, they pretty much banned fans from going to the stands, and on top of that, told the 49ers playing Santa Clara County, and they told them, y'all can't play your games here anymore for what it's worth. Brian Kelly yesterday comes out in a post-game interview and says that if Notre Dame beats Clemson and they get picked in the college football playoff and they have to play in the Rose Bowl, Brian Kelly is seriously considering pulling Notre Dame out of this game because the parents can't come to the game to watch them live if it's their last game. He
Oh my
legit said
God.
that.
Oh my
And
God.
there are many people think that the other big dumb head ass coach in the ACC and Dabo Sweeney might actually follow suit.
Oh my
That if
God.
Clemson wins and they go to the Rose Bowl, they might pull them out because they think it's unfair that parents can't come to the games
Who
and they think
cares?
this game needs to be switched. Dude, who cares? You're gonna tell me that these parents don't have TVs in their
Right.
house? They
Yeah.
can't watch the goddamn game? Dude, are you kidding me,
Yeah.
dude? Brian Kelly can kiss my ass because now all of a sudden Notre Dame has become somewhat relevant, and
Right.
now all of a sudden Notre Dame has come to a point to where they're now going to be considered to be in the college football playoff, and to try and make noise, you're going to boycott. So who are you really doing this to? Are you really trying to put a middle finger to everybody saying, what do you feel about this COVID? Because you want to know what I thought about earlier? It's so funny that my ass has been a borderline conspiracy theorist over the last 6 years. And when I started speaking some of these prophecies that are coming up, everyone thought I was such an idiot and I'm such a jackass and I'm such a dummy. And why does anyone listen to me? Now those same idiots are turning around to my this mask, this COVID is a hoax. This mask doesn't work. This, and that. All these conspiracies. So now all of a sudden you just want to jump on
Just
the
jump
boat.
right on.
Piss off. But for Brian Kelly to sit here and say that he's going to ruin his kid's future because, God forbid, you play at a Rose Bowl where there's going to be no fans, as if no one has a TV nowadays in any household or doesn't have a phone in any household, you can't
Or
watch
you know
the
what?
game.
Travel.
Brian Kelly is absolute
Travel to the game. If you're a parent, travel to the game. Watch the game at the hotel, and then you'll be there when the team is done. Like it's so stupid. It's so childish. And honestly, if let's say for example I'm a parent on that team, and Brian Kelly tells me, well, I feel so terribly for you as a parent that I'm going to pull the game. I'd be like, what the fuck you talking about, dude? My son needs to play this game. I don't care if I have to watch it from the hotel or from 1,000 miles away. My son's playing this game. And it's silly because we all know what it is, right? Like, Brian Kelly's trying to be coy about it. Dabo Sweeney's trying to be coy about it. It's a money thing. It's a money thing. You know, and it's sad to say that two of the richest schools in the country, by the way, in Clemson and Notre Dame, who get oodles of money from people, fans, parents, every single year, are somehow like now taking the moral stance of, we won't stand for this. Our parents have to be in the stands. That's silly, dude. Absolutely silly. And by the way, if that ends up happening, and honestly, I don't want to say I hope it happens. I hope it happens because I will clown them for the rest of my life for that. I will literally clown them every single chance I get. I will clown them for the rest of my life because that is just borderline retarded. I have to say it. I'm sorry. I can't.
Yes. No, it's highly stupid. And I'm just in the car listening to this. Dumbfounded.
It's selfish, dude.
I was listening to what was it? Broussard and is it Carter Rob? I can't think of the other guy's name, but I was listening to them and Broussard brought it up, and dude, these words came out of Brian Kelly's mouth himself.
I can't.
It wasn't this is a speculation. He legit said that he will borderline talk about boycotting if the Rose Bowl isn't moved somewhere else because of COVID and parents sitting in the stands to watch their kids. Dude, give me a flipping break, dude.
Cry me a river about that, please. Like, we have more people dying every single day from COVID than 9/11. Every single day, we have more than 3,000 people dying from this. But like your parents not being able to go to the game and watch their kids, that's the real travesty. That's the real. You know what I'm saying? Like, get out of here, dude. Stop it.
And you know the funny thing is, and not to veer off of sports, but like I think the funny thing is I've come to a point to where I'm starting to believe that people at this point are just complaining just to
complain, right?
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, okay, yes, it sucks that we have to have to change our life. And yes, it sucks that things aren't the same. And, everyone's still nervous about Biden coming into office and this and that and everything else and blah, blah, blah. And now all of a sudden everyone's political scientists, and they've been looking up at all the numbers and they know everything that's going to go on and this and that. And like just the other day, I'm not going to mention no names, but, New York has really been clowned on how they've been handling the whole COVID situation.
Yeah.
To a point to where I had a friend who made a video about the outdoor seating. So, some states still won't allow their people to sit in restaurants. So then they'll make some type of outdoor coverage so that people can eat and whatnot. And everyone's clowning. I'm thinking like, dude, I was in Illinois during the entire first half, and that's what many people did. Yep. But you got to do what you got to do at this time. Like, yeah, it might look dumb. Yeah, it might look stupid. But we're at a point where things have to change.
Yeah.
I remember when I used to be very, conspiracy about this whole COVID until it hit home.
Yeah.
And now I've changed my stance on it. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand that it sucks, like, what's going on, and you want to get out of the house, and you want to grab a beer from the bar and whatnot and everything else. Yeah. But it's like, dude, okay, or, you want to visit your family at Christmas, and who's going to tell me to do this and that? That's fine and everything. But if consequences come behind that, where the same family member you wanted to see passed away because you had something that you might be asystematic or whatever the case may be, then it wasn't really worth it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's why when Brian Kelly says stupid shit like this, the fact that the ACC came up with a plan for you to even be in this position in the first place, and you're going to come out on national TV and say that, they deserve to at least have their parents in the stands. No offense to anybody, but let's just hypothetically say, let's say there's a podcast awards, and we get the award. We're in nomination for best sports podcast, right? Mm-hmm. I would beg my mom and dad to come to the award ceremony. Great chance neither one's going to come.
Sure.
You know how many tears I'm going to shed over it? Absolutely not. Because my dad is already recovering from COVID, and my mom doesn't want to catch it because she takes care of my grandmother.
Right.
I'm okay with that. I'm not going to sit here and be like, this goddamn COVID ruined my parents not being here, and I wish they was really here, blah, 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 this, that, and everything else. I'm not going to cry tears about it.
And even more importantly, Nick, I'm in the same boat as you, and I know neither one of our parents would go, well, why don't I get to go? Because, I'm your mom and I'm your dad. Why can't I go? Neither one of them are going to say, well, sorry, if I can't go, you guys probably shouldn't be considered for the awards because, I'm your mom, I'm your dad. I can't. No, my parents are going to go, hey, go and FaceTime me after. I think we'll be just fine. Exactly. I think we'll be just fine communicating afterwards. And again, it all goes back to I think everybody here in this country was very skeptical about everything, to start off, especially us, people who are so used to conspiracies and some of the, things that we've seen happen in this country and in this world over the last 100+ years. I think everybody was ready to just kind of throw the towel in and say this is completely fake. But when it doesn't even have to hit home for you, all you have to do is just look at the numbers and look at, exactly how many people have been affected by this and exactly how many people are still affected to this daily. I talked about it, 3,000 plus people are dying every single day right now in this country. And it's a result of us not really doing what we're supposed to be doing as a country. And that's a huge part of it is when you got guys like Brian Kelly and Dabo Swinney who are overriding doctors, overriding scientists, overriding people who are I've worked my whole Dabo Swinney and Brian Kelly. You guys are football coaches. I've been doing this in the medical and scientist field for 60 years. So your knowledge and your wanting to play football is not in any way comparable to me doing my job as a scientist, as a doctor, as somebody who has to make decisions for a country. And it's just sad because, again, you and I are both in the same boat. I think extra crazy shit about what's happening in the world and what's happening now, what's happened in the past. But, when people want to bring in when people want to bring in their daily lives, like, I didn't get to see my grandma this year, and what is gonna? It's like, dude, I'm sorry, I can't listen to you because people are out here dying.
Exactly.
People are out here literally on ventilators. I mean, my sister was a part of the COVID unit earlier this year, and my sister was getting exposed multiple times every single day. She has kids at home. I don't want my sister to be exposed to that. I don't want my sister to have to, take the vaccine to even be safe to go to work or to go to not exposing her children. So I think it starts with us at home, man. I think we have to really, and we have to listen. I really truly believe this. We have to make fun of people like Brian Kelly, and we have to make fun of people like Dabo Swinney. We have to be hard on them. We have to make sure they understand. You sound stupid. You sound insensitive, and just shut up. That's it.
But college football. I mean, before we came on, Northwestern gave Ohio State a ride for the longest, but Ohio State's defense really clamped down on Northwestern. Northwestern, I think, really shot themselves in the foot. They left 10 points on the board. They were in the red zone, and what's this dude's name? Patrick Ramsey throws a terrible pass to his tight end, gets picked off. That's 7 points, and then they miss a field goal 2 possessions later. And at that point, Ohio State is still down 10-6. So they leave those 10 points on the board. Ohio State comes with 16 unanswered points, and they end up beating them 22-10. So it's a great chance Ohio State's going to be in. But still, Texas A&M sits there in a very good spot because the best thing for Texas A&M right now is for Alabama to destroy Florida.
Right.
Not just to beat them, but they have to destroy them.
Pants them,
because on paper, so if let's say if Clemson beats Notre Dame, now the question is who gets that final spot between Notre Dame and Texas A&M. Well, Clemson can turn out. Well, Notre Dame come out and say my best win was against the number 2 team in the country, and our losses to the number 2 team in the country, which is fine.
Yeah.
But then Texas A&M can sit and say, dude, we lost to the number 1 team in the country, and we have some good wins under our belt as well.
Yeah.
So I think Texas A&M is in a very prime spot. I think they're going to make it. And I miss Jimbo Fisher as head coach of Florida State. I understand why he left. It was a sad way, the way Florida State and Jimbo kind of ended it. But
why did he leave? Explain to me why did he end up going? Because it's not like the program is much better.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there was a lot going on. I think that it has a little bit had to do with financials.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I think there was some under the scenes stuff because you got to remember. In 2 years that Jimbo was head coach, Jameis Winston was a quarterback.
True.
And we know in his first year when Jameis was quarterback was when he was in the rape allegation. And then the second year he was quarterback was when Jameis got suspended.
Crab legs,
the whole crab leg things. And then Jameis got suspended a game when he made some obscene
to an Uber driver. Right.
Yeah. And so it was in between there. And I think there were some things that Jimbo wanted Florida State to do that Florida State wasn't willing to do. And they just never seen on the same page. And it deteriorated so bad to where Jimbo Fisher pretty much took the A&M job right in the middle of the season, Florida State season, and pretty much told everyone, hey, man, look, I just took this new job. I'm going to be out at the end of the year.
Wow.
And told recruits and everything. And that's when they brought in Willie Taggart. So, I just think that the relationship really deteriorated, and it sucks. But I still like Jimbo. I got the utmost respect for him, and I think what he's done to Texas A&M. If there's any Florida State fans that are either watching it now or going to watch this later, just look at what Jimbo has done in Texas A&M and have hope for what our team is going to do. A lot of these guys that Florida State has now are all Willie Taggart guys. Mike Norvell hasn't brought in his own dudes. So this year we've taken a lot of L's, but we got some good signature wins. I think next year, now that you cut out the riffraff, you bring in your own guys, you bring in your own system, guys that are going to believe in what you're going to do. I think Florida State's going to be in good job, but I still think Texas A&M sitting there at 5 is in real prime position to make the playoff. And I think in the best case scenario, I really think that Notre Dame. If I was Texas A&M, I would almost root for Notre Dame to beat Clemson. I think they're a shoo-in. So if Clemson beats Notre Dame, I think there's a 50-50 chance they get in. If Notre Dame beats Clemson, I think they're 100% in, because at that point Clemson will have 2 losses. They'll probably fall to like 8 or 10, and I think somehow Texas A&M creeps up to that 4th spot.
Well, here's the lovely thing about what we do is I can give you a real-time update on that, because Notre Dame is in some pretty big trouble in the third quarter. It's 24-3 right now, Clemson. So 3 touchdowns to overcome here. We will see here what Notre Dame can do, but you're right. I mean, it's a must-win for Clemson, because if you don't win that, your 2 losses automatically disqualifies you, and that wouldn't do you any good here. So,
and let me say this.
Yeah, please.
And let me say this too. I think that if Clemson destroys Notre Dame, I still think it puts Texas A&M in that spot. If it's a close game, if Notre Dame comes back and Clemson only beats them by like 3, I think it's going to be hard for A&M to go in, because they're going to say, okay, you beat Clemson the first time with no Trevor Lawrence, and then you almost beat them the second time with Trevor Lawrence. Okay, we can overlook that. And Texas A&M's on the outside looking in. And where if Clemson comes up and destroys them, the committee's going to be like, we knew you guys were frauds, because Clemson were missing 2 big starters in the first game, and it took overtime for you to beat them. Now they're beating the piss out of you like they should have done the first time. So now you're null and void. So I think, again, A&M is in a prime spot, and I think they're going to get that Ohio State treatment. And even though they weren't in the SEC title game, based on where they're at, I think they get in.
Okay, all right. And then I do want to, before we go, because I know we've got a lot to talk about next week, and it's going to be pretty crazy, but the last UFC card of the year is tonight. So this was supposed to be the giant one with Chimaev and Edwards, and it was supposed to be like 2 title fights if possible. That didn't end up coming to fruition. So it's already halfway through and already to the, I believe, the main card, which is pretty good. Marcin Tybura versus Greg Hardy. You got Rob Font versus Marlon Moraes. Michel Pereira versus Chaos Williams. That's going to be a damn good fight. If you're going to catch one fight tonight, catch some Michel Pereira versus Chaos Williams. And then Jose Aldo versus Marlon Vera. This is a big fight for both of these guys. Marlon Vera just coming off of beating Sean O'Malley. And then Aldo is like getting up there in age, dude. If he loses, like, I don't know what he does after this, because remember, the UFC's cutting a lot of people. The UFC cut Yoel Romero. He went to Bellator. They cut Anthony Rumble Johnson. He went to Bellator. So we'll see what happens with Aldo. And then the main event for this one is Jeff Neal versus Wonderboy Thompson. So, you know, again, we talked about this before, Nick. It's like, if you're a diehard UFC fan, you're like, okay, I'll watch that. That's fine. But, like, to the casual fan that they're trying to reach here, I don't think anybody's going to be looking at this card and, like, wetting their pants from excitement.
Exactly. I'm with you on that. And like we said last week, you know, the guys that you were able to market back in the day, it's just like, as a matter of fact, speaking of that, I watched a video of someone put like this collaboration of all the UFC heavyweights, heavyweight championship wins. And I'm like, dude, I remember these, like Mark Coleman, Tim Sylvia. People forget how much of a beast Tim Sylvia was in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, he was a problem.
There was one when and I remember this one when he fought Andre Arlovski for the heavyweight title. Yeah. And it looked like Arlovski had him knocked out, and Sylvia came and knocked him out like 30 seconds later. You know,
and remember, Arlovski looked like he was like sculpted by a Greek god, and Tim Sylvia was like this like pudgy, sort of like tall, pudgy dude, and like it was crazy when he won.
But he was country strong.
Exactly,
he had that country strong, and they were showing when Brock came in and won the heavyweight championship, and Frank Mir was champion, and Antonio Nogueira was champion, and give me another one. Randy Couture was champion, and Cain Velasquez became champ, and then Junior Dos Santos. Those were marketable guys, right? And now it's Stipe, and I'm not dissing Stipe, but dude, when are you gonna come back in the ring, bro? You have 3 legit heavyweight champions or championship quality guys that are ready for you, and I think Francis needs to be number 1 on that list.
So I have an update for you. Dana White this week, he said the next fight for Stipe will be Francis. No matter when it is, it is going to be Francis.
Yes.
So the only dilemma that creates now is that who does John fight? Because John already moved to heavyweight. So who do they give John? I think, I don't think Rosenstruik is exactly the sexiest matchup, but I wouldn't mind that one. Honestly, dude, he should just go back to light heavyweight. This whole thing about having Izzy fight Blachowicz, it just doesn't really do it for me, because at the end of the day, Izzy, he's cleared out middleweight, and that's part of the reason why they're giving him to Blachowicz, is because there's nobody left for him at lightweight anyways, because he just beat what's his face, who help me out here, the guy who we thought won in 5 rounds against John Jones. My God, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name. Hispanic fella. Guy. No, yeah. Totally forgetting his name, but good fight. But just he just lost to Blachowicz. Blachowicz knocked him out. Dominic Reyes. Sorry.
There you go.
Sorry. So yeah, Reyes. That was a pretty decent fight. But then there's nobody left now. And then if you're gonna go ahead and guarantee that Stipe is gonna get Francis, I don't know where that leaves John.
I mean, yeah, you mentioned Rosenstruik. Do you dare go after Derek Lewis? Do you dare go after Curtis Razor Blades? Ooh. Do you dare go after I'm trying to think of another good heavyweight.
Honestly,
Derek Lewis.
I was about to say, I actually, because Derek Lewis, I want to say, oh, that's right. He was supposed to fight somebody, and that fight got canceled. It was Curtis Blades, and it got canceled because of COVID. That's actually not a bad option, because you could sell tickets with that fight. And even if the fight isn't like the best, you'll sell that fight pretty damn well.
Yeah, dude. I'm with you on that. So Rosenstruik, Blades, and Derek Lewis, unless by some miracle of God, and I don't see it happening, Brock comes out of retirement and decides he wants to have one more fight, which I don't see that happening. I agree with you, dude, because the whole Twitter war is Bones versus Izzy.
Izzy, right. Yeah. And that's still another year. And that's still another year away from it even working like weight-wise, too, because Izzy would want to meet John more than likely at lightweight. But he's currently fighting, light heavyweight. He's currently fighting at light heavyweight and planning to fight Blachowicz. It doesn't make sense for Izzy to move up 2 weight classes and have John only move up 1. John really messed things up by moving to heavyweight. If he would have stayed at light heavyweight, he would have had a chance at Blachowicz, and then Blachowicz, even if he wins that fight, you could still fight Izzy. But now it puts him in a weird position, because Izzy, let's be honest, Izzy has cleared out middleweight, and there's not many guys that are going to be left to be able to be really sexy fights for him.
Right, exactly. And the only way, at this point, you almost think Izzy is going down the same road as Anderson Silva. I mean, Anderson cleared out the middleweight, and then he was playing around, and then got caught by Chris Weidman.
Yeah.
The next thing you knew, he was knocked out.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. So I feel like Izzy, you're right. Izzy's kind of like the king of the middleweight division. Is at this point, you just relinquish the title, and the whole division just resets, and now you move up. But I'm with you, John. Either somebody said something to him for him to move up, or he was legitimately scared of facing Blachowicz or something.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you.
I think he just didn't want to rematch against those guys, because he knew he was going to be in a bad position. If he fought Reyes again, bad position. Thiago Santos again, bad position. Even Gus, if you give him Gus again, that's a tough fight for him. It
is. And so I think he, I'm with you. I think he prematurely went up too much, but I don't like Bones Jones' chances in the heavyweight division.
No.
Because obviously he's going to put on some weight and whatnot, but man, Derek Lewis comes in at 260 something, and what's Bones going to put on? Maybe 20, 30 more pounds.
Yeah.
And it's already hard enough to put Derek Lewis on his back, and you think you're capable of doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No offense to John Bones Jones, these guys, don't let Rosenstruik getting knocked out by Francis Ngannou fool you into thinking that Rosenstruik won't knock your dumb ass out.
Right.
Okay.
Because the way he knocked out Overeem.
Right.
Yeah.
There's another name that can come out. Alistair Overeem. That's another name that can come out. So I think that there are guys that could be lined up now that, Dana White finally grew half a brain and realized, look, yeah, it's cool that John Bones Jones moved up to heavyweight, but we're not going to skip 3 or 4 guys that are in the better contention of the belt.
Yeah.
We're not going to skip Bones Jones over 4 guys just because we want to sell tickets. No, that's not how the game works. No. And I'm telling you that Stipe does not want to see this Francis. That's all I'm going to say. And when it's etched in stone, I'm taking every bet I can put my hands on, because no one's giving Francis a chance because they're based on the first fight. And I'm telling you, this man is way different than that first fight, and he will knock Stipe ass out if Stipe don't watch out. Because this is the same Francis Ngannou that's taking boxing lessons from Mike Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
Which then goes into, I'm glad we're talking UFC. So let's bring this up real quick.
Yeah.
So we saw Logan Paul call out Conor McGregor and said that his wife was a 4, and he's got the Irish flag on, and he's smoking, and this and that and everything else, because Logan Paul's on cloud 9 because he knocked out Nate Robinson, who's not a boxer. Canelo, who actually fights tonight, said that he thinks that if they come out on a boxing match, and somehow, let's say there's a $50 million payday on this boxing match, he thinks boxing will take a huge black eye because Logan Paul does not belong in the ring.
Yeah.
Canelo is 100% correct.
Yeah.
Logan Paul is a joke. Okay, here's a guy who is a YouTuber who's basically doing this for follows and basically is doing this for the simple fact that he's trying to get paid and is on cloud 9 because you knocked out 5'5" Nate Robinson, who's not a boxer. Dude, sit the F down. That's like if I went and I know that my stepdaughter Kai does not play basketball.
Yeah.
But if I was like, hey man, let's go shoot the basketball. And I came and I swatted her shot. And went on the internet and then called out LeBron James because I swatted a shot from a girl who doesn't even play basketball.
Yeah.
That is exactly what Logan Paul is doing. Dude, sit your stupid ass down.
Yeah.
Keep making your lame ass YouTube videos and stay out of the boxing ring.
Yeah.
Because many people, and you see it on Facebook all the time, would you slap your sister for $700 million? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that would.
Yeah.
Let me give you another one. I'm pretty sure Logan Paul will take a straight KO for $20 million and laugh to the bank. He could be the biggest walking meme ever, but $20 million said something else. Yeah. And I'm with Canelo. It'd be a black eye. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, and the fact that Floyd, I'm proud of Canelo, but the fact that Floyd is such a sellout to the money that he even entertained an exhibition with Jake Paul is embarrassing, because it's one thing to say, like what Snoop Dogg said after that fight was he's going to create his own league and have his own boxing matches with boxing, possible celebrities. That's fine, but don't try and encroach on the sport, because you're going to ruin the sport. And when Floyd, a guy who is so highly regarded, and a lot of people, including I think you and I, think he's the greatest of all time, when he validates that and when he feeds into that and gives Jake Paul even more ammo, it's really, really bad. And one thing I know for sure is that no matter what happens, Floyd Mayweather is never, ever, 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 ever going to lose to Jake Paul or to any amateur boxer.
Jake Paul, not Logan Paul.
Yeah, that's cool, because I get them confused all the time. He is never, like, honestly, this sounds funny, but I legitimately think that one hand tied behind Floyd's back, he could still beat Jake Paul. That's how confident I am that Jake Paul is just not close to being where he needs to be. And let's be honest about this. Jake Paul is a businessman. He understands. He didn't call out the best boxers in the world, did he? He called out the biggest trolls on Twitter that were going to make him the most money. Dylan Dennis, Conor McGregor and Floyd, and let's put Floyd in there because Floyd at this point, he's a Twitter guy. He's not even fighting anymore. So it's embarrassing for the sport, and I'm happy that a lot of people like Errol Spence and a lot of these guys who like have put in hard work to be where they're at and are making good money are not feeding into this frenzy of like, let me fight Jake Paul because, you know, it'll put some more eyes on me. At the end of the day, dude, Jake Paul, he's an attention whore, and the reason why he's successful is because this country loves attention whores. So we're gonna we're gonna keep feeding him until he's getting fat and explodes.
Couldn't agree more. So I have all the respect in the world for Canelo for coming out and saying, dude, stay your dumb ass over there. Don't come over here with this nonsense. And as much as I'm not a fan of Conor McGregor,
Conor would smoke him.
Conor McGregor's wife is not a four.
No, she's fine. She's fine as hell.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Conor McGregor, as much as he probably would like the money, I think he's more focused on Dustin Poirier than he is worried about stupid ass Jake Paul.
I could tell you what Conor's focused on because I've read some stuff about from John Kavanaugh, his coach. He really, 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 really wants to beat the hell out of Dustin so that he could bring Khabib out of retirement. He really, really wants that, and I think the main issue with that is that Dana. What was in media this week saying, like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to be meeting with Khabib in, I think he said after Christmas. So he's going to be meeting with Khabib after Christmas to talk to him. But he said it's no guarantee that he'll come back. But, again, I think John Kavanaugh, who's Conor's main striking coach, said on Ariel Helwani's show, we are trying to, like, put the best game plan together to show that Conor's at the strongest that he's ever been and really wipe the floor with Dustin so that we can bring Khabib out of retirement. And to be quite honest, I'm not sure if that works because Khabib is just not, you know, he's not a Henry Cejudo. He's not an attention whore like these other guys. He's like just fine staying at home and milking goats in the morning and like going, you know, to some village. I think he's okay with that. And I don't see Conor right now. Conor's in a really tough position because I'm sorry to say this, he's losing relevancy. Like every single day he isn't doing something, people are forgetting about him. I'm sorry. I know there's a bunch of these nut huggers and a bunch of these Conor dudes who go and buy cases of Proper 12 and, you know, try and, you know, do an Irish accent and stuff like that. Good luck with that. Have fun with that. But I'm telling you, dude, this dude is wearing really thin on fans. Like that last fight against Cowboy was embarrassing. I think, you know, and the fact that he still feels proud about that is sad.
Dude, fighting Cowboy is like getting the first two. Remember Bozo buckets from back in the day?
Bozo buckets, right? Yeah.
You get the first two buckets.
Yeah, right. That's
and you get like the cheap prizes. And you know your aim is not really that great after you hit that third one because it was a little short, but you got the bounce stuff. Yeah, dude. After that, dude, like the game gets harder, man, and
you have to take into consideration. You have to take into consideration, Nick. No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, Conor beat a guy who basically has 1.5 feet out of the way.
Right, yeah.
And of all the guys you could have picked to fight in the what was Conor? Welterweight? He's welterweight, yeah.
Lightweight.
Welterweight? Yeah. Is it lightweight?
He's gonna be doing he's in them both. He is like he's open in both. I think he's fighting Dustin at lightweight though.
Okay. Cerrone's what, welter?
He's another guy who's bounced around, but he's better at welter, yeah.
All right, so we'll just say welterweight.
Welter, yeah.
Of all the guys in the welterweight division you could have picked, you picked Cowboy Cerrone.
Guy who's halfway out the door.
you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah,
dude?
yeah.
That's like if I was a fresh, let's say if I was a fresh 22-year-old bear in MMA, and I'm like, okay, who can I make my mark against? I'm finna call out Randy Couture. This man hasn't fought in years.
Right.
So of all the people I'm gonna come back against, I'm gonna call out a guy that hasn't fought in years. Really, that's what Conor did against Cowboy.
Yeah, and what I was
clearly out the door.
And what I was gonna say is, it's not only that Conor is like stagnant. The problem is there's so many more fighters shooting to the top right now. Izzy, Figueiredo. I mean, Figueiredo might be, after that fight last week, might be fighter of the year. He has 5 wins in 2020, including 2 title defenses and a title win. And that fight last week against Brandon Moreno was no fucking joke. I mean, both of those guys were scrapping. But then you got Izzy, who's rising up, Kevin Holland, Chimaev. Like, you got these guys who are like in the stratosphere right now as far as popularity. And I don't think there's been a time in the last 5 years where Conor has been more irrelevant. And quite frankly, dude, a loss against Dustin would kill his career. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
A loss against Dustin kills your career, Conor. Like, because Conor, he can't come back after that, man. And there's no Khabib. You know, you lose to Dustin, there's no Khabib anymore. There's no, you know, I know he's wanting big fights. No more of that.
And one of the main reasons why I think Khabib is just going to stay retired, because at the end of the day, it sounded like he really wanted GSP. But I think something in Khabib's head, outside of the passing of his father, was that, dude, GSP is another one that hasn't fought in years.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point? Like, what are we gonna, like? We're gonna have like a legends versus future legends. You know, I'm pretty sure GSP is still in good shape, but does he still want to take punches though? This is the same guy that came back, won the middleweight championship, and never defended it.
Yeah.
He just pretty much let it go because he was like, okay, I've done what I wanted to do. I won the welterweight. I won the middleweight. I'm considered one of the greatest fighters in the world ever. What else do I have to prove?
Yeah.
And I think at some point, the thought of Khabib fighting a legend like GSP was great, but then that process add on to the passing of his father, he's probably just like, dude, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I really just don't see him coming back, period, for whatever reason. Like, Conor McGregor, if he beats Dustin Poirier, would have to say some real out-of-pocket nonsense, even worse than what he said when Khabib's dad was alive.
Yeah.
You would have to really hit Khabib in the nuts with your words for him to come back. I legit think he's done.
Yeah.
You
and
know,
if you believe Conor,
I need a break.
if you believe Conor, he's a changed man. He's, you know, he doesn't do that. So he's all about fighting. So that's another thing. It's like you've lost that edge because people were like on your nuts about how like, and like he's just so loud. And now like, let's be honest, nobody wants to see like calm, humble Conor who's like, you know what, I've paid my dues and I've best of luck to Dustin Poirier, and it's like that. Nobody wants to see that. We want to see you raging and being an idiot because that's what that's what they're into you for. Right,
exactly. So, yeah, dude. I mean,
and let me also say the Khabib. Do you believe the whole Khabib 29-0 thing? He wants to be 30-0. I don't believe that.
No, I don't believe it. He's got He's got a fat 0 in the loss column. He retired as probably the greatest lightweight that ever lived, and he pretty much dominated Justin Gaethje. And here's the crazy part: he didn't just beat Justin Gaethje. He said, "I will submit you," and made him tap. 4 times before it was recognized.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, what does Khabib have left to really prove?
Yeah.
To shut up Conor McGregor one more time to go to 30-0? No. You already beat him, and then you jumped over the fence to beat the piss out of his entourage. And then there was Conor Nuthuggers that had the audacity to be like, he didn't have to do all that. You know, that was all extra. Why do you do that for? Yeah. You just insulted the man's family for the last 2 months.
His country and his religion, you know? Like, come on, dude.
His religion and his family. 2 things that he holds dear.
Yeah.
And you hit him in the nuts twice and didn't think he wasn't going to clap back. Dude, I'm telling you, dude, Green Bay Packer fans and Conor McGregor Nutters give me so much gas because I swear they drink from the same idiot pool. Yeah. They are such idiots, dude. I cannot tell you how many arguments I've gotten with Green Bay Packer fans until I realize I see why Bear fans hate.
Yeah, you see why we hate the rest.
I swear to God, as a collective whole, they are idiots.
They're so dumb.
Pure idiots. Like so they have so many. The same team that can't stop the run thinks that Will Fuller is the guy that's going to help them get over the hump. Really?
The only thing that would have been better, Nick, is if they would have traded for Will Fuller and he got suspended like he did with the Texans because he's suspended for the rest of the year for performance-enhancing drugs. That would have been the icing on the cake, is if the Packers gave up draft picks to get this guy. He comes there. He's the solution to all their problems, and then the next week he's suspended for the rest of the season.
Exactly. And then they would still stand on their soapbox talking about, oh, well, we're still good. Like they're over here celebrating that they won the NFC North. I'm like, you guys win the NFC North every year. Like the Bears fell off, Minnesota's inconsistent, and Detroit sucks. Yeah. So what you guys are gonna be? They're in the same boat as the Saints. Saints fans do the same shit. And my God, we've won the South so many times. We own the South, blah, 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 blah. The New Orleans Saints are 5 years of walking memes from every playoff loss they pick it. Yeah. St. Louis, L.A., Minnesota. The Minnesota
God, yeah.
The Marshawn Lynch run was against the New Orleans Saints. Yeah. I mean, we go on for days.
Yeah.
So while they over here trying to flex their NFC South champs, and you guys shouldn't talk about us because you didn't make the playoffs, I would almost borderline not want to make the playoffs to be a 5-year like running on it. Dude, everyone's biggest highlight happens to be against the Saints. Yeah. Somehow, since they've won the Super Bowl, they're all the key NFC Super Bowl wins somehow go through New Orleans.
That's so funny.
It's ridiculous.
Before I forget, because I wanted to mention this before we wrap up, Tony Ferguson, dude, like this dude fell off the face of the earth. Like that loss against Gaethje was really ugly. Like he was out on his feet for like 2 rounds, and Gaethje just beat him up. And then last week, man, I mean, listen, give credit where credit is due. Like Tony is a really creative guy. I think he does a lot of things really well. But man, he looked like super, super, super out of his element there. And he really, at the end of the day, Tony will always be haunted by the fact that they tried to make that Khabib fight 5 times, and 5 times that fight didn't happen. I think that's going to haunt him for the rest of his career. But Charles Oliveira, I mean, oh my God, absolutely dominant, and Tony just had no answer for it. And it was funny because last time it was on the feet with Gaethje, but this time, I mean, Charles was doing whatever he wanted, taking him down, ground and pound, beating him up, and Tony just had absolutely no answer. And I don't know, dude, I'm not saying retirement, but like, you really got to take a deep, deep look at this guy because he's already kind of a little bit weird, like already kind of a little bit messed up in the head. Like, I don't know if this is a guy you want to take any more punishment to the head like that.
Yeah, and on top of that, I wonder if this is a classic case of a man who looked beyond Justin and can't get his focus back.
Right.
It's almost you know what Tony Ferguson almost is very Chuck Liddell-ish. Where remember Chuck Liddell was the man for every bit of a year and a half until he lost to Rampage.
Yeah.
Once he lost to Rampage, he never got his mojo back. Tony Ferguson, for what it's worth, while Khabib, like you said, 5 times they tried it. One got hurt, the other got hurt, or COVID situations.
COVID, right, yeah.
He took that loss to Gaethje and just has not been the same guy, And I'm starting to wonder if a little bit is like, man, dude, I just really wanted to fight Khabib and now,
right,
do I really have the passion now? Because what I wanted to do now I really can't do because Khabib is gone.
Yeah.
And so why am I here? It's basically just to collect a check.
And another Liddell, another Chuck-like comparison is, remember, Chuck would take nasty, nasty shots and still be on his feet. But after the first time he got really hurt, his chin was never the same. And I think it's the same for Tony, too, because granted, Tony didn't get knocked out, but Charles buckled him like 3 or 4 times in that fight, and they were on shots that were not that huge, and including a couple of head kicks. So, and Tony, dude, like, the problem with Tony is he doesn't take help. Like, he's doing Wing Chun. You know what Wing Chun is? Like, he's still doing Wing Chun on wooden boards. And they're like, hey, Tony, maybe we should get in and, like, spar for a couple rounds. Like, no, I'm going to do headstands on the wall for the next 2 hours. And it's like, when you have the guy who's like that far gone mentally, how can a coach come in and be like, yo, we got some shit to improve when every single day, like, this dude's walking in with the boombox freestyling and break dancing to goddamn Latin music, and it's like, yo, man, we need to figure this out, because at the end of the day, he doesn't have much tread left on his tires. I mean, he's got 2 fights in him max, I think, at this point, before he has to start thinking, I'm done.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, no, you bring up a good point on. You bring up a very solid point on Tony. Like,
all right, I'm not hoping for it. I want him to come back. Trust me, I like him. He's one of the most vicious guys in the division, and quite frankly, like, he hasn't even really got to show all of his tools because he's so reckless in there that he gets hit so much. I mean, like, if this was a guy who just had like a Faraz Sahabi or somebody in his corner like that could really like steer him in the right direction, I think he would be doing a good job. But right now, like, I just think it's a little bit far too gone for him, and we might have to be starting to talk about the R word with him. But anyways, all right, Nick, anything else, man?
Real quick before we go
ahead.
I want to send prayers out to the King, Hendrik Lundqvist. I'm not sure
if
you saw.
I saw that.
He has to miss the 2021 season because of some heart condition that came up.
That's sad.
So he opted out. Yeah, dude, I felt so bad for him. Like, I know he's not in the Ranger uniform anymore, but he's still the King, and he's still my favorite goaltender. And it sucks now that he's gonna have to miss the 2021 season, and we'll see what happens after that. But
how old is he again? He's got to be at least like.
Henrik's like 37, 38 years old.
Yeah, man. I mean, after this year, but man, prayers up to Henrik, man. That's. I hope it doesn't cause him to retire.
Exactly. So hopefully we get to see him one more time. Just won't be this year, but prayers go out to Hendrik Lundqvist. Looking forward to the NBA season starting up this week. We talked a little bit about it in the beginning of the show. You're optimistic about your team. I'm optimistic about the Knicks. No big, like I said, nothing stupid. I'm not gonna come out and say, oh yeah, here come the Knicks. We're gonna win an NBA championship.
Right. Yeah,
but I think Tibbs is gonna bring something out of these kids that Jeff Hornacek and David Fizdale and Mike Miller. Yeah. We finally now have a head coach.
Right.
Jeff Hornacek was pulled off the streets because supposedly he knew the triangle from Phil, which is BS.
Yeah.
Then you fire Phil, and then you fire Jeff, and then you bring in David Fizdale. And the best thing David Fizdale did was get KP to be traded. Remember, this is the same David Fizdale who almost got Marcus Sol ran out of Memphis. During Marcus Sol's, nice little run in the NBA. He almost left Memphis because of Fizdale. Yep. And all the New York Knicks did was find a way for KP to want to get traded under Fizdale. So he's gone, and then you bring in Mike Miller, and the players like playing for him, but he's a G League coach. Now you got a real head coach with real experience, and you're bringing in guys who are head coaches with real experience. My favorite hiring will forever be Mike Woodson, because Mike Woodson should have never been fired as Knicks head coach in the first place back in 2014. So with that being said, you bring back a nice little offensive guru in Mike Woodson. I'm very optimistic. I'm optimistic on the Lakers. I'm optimistic on the West. I think the West, dude, is so many good teams. And we mentioned this last week. Houston. I watched highlights of Denver. I have a friend who was like, oh, man, the Knicks need to take a page out of Michael Porter Jr. I'm like, dude, why are we going to draft a guy that has a broken back? Michael Porter Jr. looks really good right now.
Yeah, and he's making a lot of teams. He's making a lot of teams look really dumb right now, including the Bulls too.
Yep. So teams that could have waited didn't wait, and Michael Porter looks real good in Denver. They're going to be a tough out. I think if Boogie and John Wall stays healthy, and we'll see what Houston does with James Harden. There's still talks about Philadelphia. Now they're willing to throw in Ben Simmons. We'll see what happens. But but Houston can be a tough out. The Lakers speak for themselves. The Clippers seem to be in high water with whatever they did with Kawhi and Jerry West. Now they're still going to be a tough out. So I'm anxious to see the
New
West, and I'm anxious
Orleans.
to see. Say it again.
New Orleans. I mean, I really
New Orleans,
Stan Van Gundy. I'm
yeah.
telling you, that's going to be a different team with Stan Van Gundy because the problem with a Alvin Gentry led team is they are going to be they'll run themselves into the wall before they decide they're going to do something different. And Stan Van Gundy is the exact opposite, and that's what got him to the finals when he was with Orlando, because Orlando was such a shape-shifting team. They could do whatever you wanted them to do on any given night. And with New Orleans, the amount of versatile pieces. I mean, let me just scare you for a second if you're a basketball fan thinking that your team is good. New Orleans has Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Steven Adams. That's not even including the bench pieces that they have. And Brandon Ingram is going to be taking a huge step up this year too. So the West is going to be nutty. And one thing I will also say is that, like, you have to look really deep at Phoenix too, because Phoenix was a team that during the bubble they were the hottest team in basketball, and then all they did was improve their team while not really having to give up too much, and they bring in Chris Paul, which is really what they needed there desperately. So, man, a lot of, and again, I'm not going to get too crazy on the Bulls as well as far as expectations are concerned, but I think we both echo the same sentiments that it's nice to have a pro NBA coach on the bench who, young players can look at and not be embarrassed by. I mean, sometimes looking at Egghead on the bench, getting all red and yelling and da-da-da, knowing you're going to have to go back in tomorrow and punch your clock in at 9 a.m. and be there. You're a pro fucking athlete making millions of dollars and you're still punching clocks because some old dude wants you to, get a real good feel of what it's like to be a hard worker. Like, dude, get the hell out of here. We're all professionals here. and the fact that Billy Donovan, I'm telling you, it's scary as a Bulls fan. You look at his professionalism and you're like, is this dude, like, does he got bodies in his closet because he's too normal for us? Like, we're used to weirdos like Tom Thibodeau or Fred Hoiberg or these guys. But when you Vinny Del Negro, I mean, don't even bring his name up. But I'm telling you, like, having a real coach like a guy like Tom Thibodeau or a guy like Billy Donovan, that's like enough to give you hope in the East. And again, dude, I'm telling you, I'm not going to be super surprised if the Knicks and the Bulls are the 7 or 8 seed this year. I'm really not going to be, because that's how open the East is this year.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, dude, I looked at Kevin Durant that game against Boston yesterday. Oh, I'm telling you what,
he can still jump too. That's
Brooklyn. Brooklyn might be rivals to the Knicks right now, but that's a scary team.
Yeah.
I think if Miami somehow pulls off getting James Harden, I think they're going to be just as scary. I think Boston can be scary. Speaking of Milwaukee, Giannis re-ups 5 years. He signs the max with Milwaukee. But the crazy thing is, dude, I still think Giannis should have waited and gone to Dallas. For some reason, Luka, Giannis, and KP on the same team is insane. And like this one dude tries to come to me, he's like, well, Giannis needs the ball in his hands. Okay, so you think Luka Doncic is gonna tweak about that? This guy's 6'9" and can move off the ball.
And he can shoot.
And he can shoot.
Yeah.
Luka can shoot. Luka's famous for taking them step back ass threes.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, say whatever it is that you want. But, I still think he should have gone to Dallas. But again, Giannis is the guy who legit said he didn't want to go to a big market. So LA was out of the mix. New York knew was going to be out of the mix. Miami's become an attractive place, but I think Dallas would have been low key, really good, and in the mix in that West.
Yeah.
But he has faith in Milwaukee and thinks they're going to find a team. We'll see what they do with now they got Drew Holiday now running the show, so they have a upgraded point guard situation than what they had with George Hill and Eric Bledsoe. And I still think Milwaukee's going to be a good team. But once you get past, maybe like that 5th spot, I think 6, 7, and 8 is wide open from the East.
Open.
Once you get past Milwaukee, Boston, Brooklyn, Miami, and Toronto, and maybe even Orlando to an extent, because I think they're going to be good this year. 6, 7, and 8. Well, I just meant 6. So 7 and 8, wide open. Indiana's in that mix. As I mentioned, You mentioned the Bulls. I mentioned the Knicks. I mean, I think these guys. Atlanta's another team we got to talk about because they made a lot of moves this year.
Indiana.
So exactly. So I think the East is going to be wide open. But I'm really anxious for the basketball. I really love watching basketball.
Me too.
I'm anxious because I think even though the Lakers are the consensus number one, I still feel like there's a lot of there can be a lot of parity that goes along because even though the Lakers made really good moves, other teams in the West can still catch up to them. So I'm really looking forward to the season this year.
And Denver, by the way, man, Denver's a dark horse. Like the way that they've drafted the last few years with like Bol and Porter and RJ Hampton this year, and then Jamal Murray is continuously growing. We're just seeing Jokic now. Last year was like really the first time we're seeing Jokic play his style of ball, and you see how beneficial that is to them. So it's going to be a crazy year this year in the NBA, and I'm looking.
And don't forget about Utah.
Oh, my God, Utah, too. Yeah, Utah's another team. Yeah, with Donovan Mitchell taking a step up, Rudy Gobert. And that's why I said, like, listen, James Harden, dude, like, why are you so down on Houston right now? Like, there's got to be something we don't know. Because if you look at Houston right now, I'm telling you, I saw them play 2 games against the Bulls. They're a deep team. They just waived Gerald Green earlier, and he was really good for them. So I'm not exactly sure what it is. I think one thing I will say about Harden is he's starting to get the diva. I'm sorry, the diva label is gonna start to be put on him because. Yep. Houston is starting to put out more information like, hey, by the way, since he's been here, he's had the last say on every personnel move we've made. They went out of their way to say that in the media this week, that James Harden has a player, has LeBron-like pull in the organization and has had it since 2012. So you mean to tell me that you brought in Chris Paul, and then when that didn't work out, you were the first one to say get rid of him, and then you brought in Russell Westbrook, you were the last calling it, and then when that didn't work out, you ran him out of town. I'm sorry, but James Harden, man, and then when he showed up looking like me at the damn preseason game, looking like looking like a pudgy Cartman. You cannot be doing stuff like that, man. Like this dude is starting to really wear thin, I think, on people like me, and I'm starting to see through a lot of that because I'm not sure how much longer he can do that without people going, yeah, this guy's not a number one guy.
I'm with you on that.
I'm
with you on that 100%.
All right, Nick. It's Saturday night. I know you got nothing but work to do for the rest of the night, so I'll let you.
Man, I know.
Oh man. All right. Well, appreciate you doing this a little bit later a little bit later in the day. I know we're trying to target earlier in the day, but we'll get that figured out. But either way, not next week, but the week after that, guys, we'll be doing a live show. So Nick will still be remote, but I'll be in Rolling Meadows at Rep's place, so you can guys catch us there. And again, do us a huge favor. It's rmtalk.com. Check them out on Facebook, Rolling Meadows Talk. They've got, again, the local news, offers, a bunch of other stuff like that, events and just business directories. It's a really cool thing. Again, we want you guys to do us a favor and support small businesses. So check out the local offers and news at rmtalk.com. RM as in rollingmeadowstalk.com. Check them out on Facebook. Add them. And again, guys, buy one, get one gift card at Reps for the time being. Again, for the holiday season, all you have to do is redeem the claim or the offer at rmtalk.com. And then it'll have a little offer code for you. You keep that handy. You'll save your coupon code, and then when you go in and purchase your gift card at Reps, you'll get a free gift card with the purchase of a gift card. So a purchase of $25 gets you $5 free. Purchase of $50 gets you $10 free, and a $100 gift card gets you a $25 extra gift card for you to enjoy at Reps Place. Again, 3200 Kirchhoff Road in Rolling Meadows. All right, Nick.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it, bro, and enjoy enjoy. I think I forgot it'll be the holiday season by the time after the holiday season rather, by the next time we talk, or you know what, around the time. I'm tripping because next Sunday is Oh yeah, no, I'm right there. So we'll have some Christmas stuff. So definitely enjoy your Christmas. Will we be here? I'm tripping on the days right now. I don't know why. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It will be after Christmas.
Christmas
so
is next Friday.
Next Friday. Okay, got it. So yeah, we'll if I don't see you or talk to you before then, have a good Christmas and enjoy your time, man.
You do the same.
All right, brother.
Yes, sir. You do the same.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll see you guys next week. Knicks will be undefeated, hopefully, and then the Bucks will be 9-5 on their way to sneaking into the NFC South. Damn right.
All
Knicks
right.
tape for life. Knicks tape for life.
All right, guys. Appreciate you watching, sharing, everything like that. Continue to do that. For Nick and Steve, I'm Mack. Peace.